What's up, y'all?
My life into my job and I know I'm in trouble. She manipulate my love. I know holy and I know that careful. That the Baba crowd.
Thanks, Jahan, for the super sticker.
Feelings been this way like Django Lover. Now you crash your Ferrari for like Ebola. Now some more to remain that feel all over. My feelings to this way like Django Lover. Feelings to this way like Timbani at you. Come on, I don't care if
What's up, Angel? What's up, Neek? What's up, Jahan? Thanks for the super sticker, Jahan. What's up, Mad Sketch? The Ice Cold Wolf. Destro. Sweet Mo Love. Tammy, what's up?
Another banger.
All right, y'all. Let me try to set this up real quick. What's up, y'all? Hold on, let me. Now I have a picture of all of us on Instagram, and I have Jambalaya's Talk's husband face blocked out, but it's not on purpose. it wouldn't let me save all the pictures individually, so I had to just screenshot it when it made them spread out. But it wasn't done on purpose.
You're good. He doesn't care. I just threw that up there. You're fine. That's too funny.
All right. What's up, y'all?
Hey, hey. Katie, your ponytail looks cute. Where's Kev?
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait for. Oh, he is right here.
Sorry, y'all. I'm slow.
Are you
Can
good?
you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Kev, you got to put a picture up, man. You can't have a little ring circle with the little white man inside of it.
That's the troll symbol. You see that?
You got to put a picture up, Kev.
I'm coming.
Oh, Blanche, you over here wrecking homes. Do you see this? You a home wrecker.
Listen, my goal is to upset every household in America. It really is.
Okay, let me try one more time. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
I just had to connect my headphones. Okay, cool. Well, thank you guys for being here and switching to YouTube so fast. It's unfortunate that we weren't able to do on Twitter, but I did post it out to Twitter, and hopefully we'll have some people join us. I know lots of people have notifications on for Blanche anyways, so you guys want to follow the same schedule?
Yeah, that you laid out in IG?
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, cool. And then Blanche, for Twitter, do we need to not for Twitter, for YouTube, do we need to be like muting and unmuting? Or no?
Not if you don't hear echo. I mean, if you don't hear echo, it should be good.
Okay. So typically, like when I'm talking, if somebody says anything, then I wind up stuttering. I learned that through editing. It's so
I can mute.
terrible.
It's up to y'all.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Just saying that I develop a stutter very quickly. So anyways, okay. All right, well, we'll just go with the same thing and I'll kick it off. So, hey, I'm Katie Truther with Louisiana Sister Squad podcast. My sister Tammy was planning on joining us today, so hopefully she is here in the comments. If you see her, just let me know because I can't see the comments. I think I might be able to open it up on my phone actually. But so we have a podcast that we typically focus on holistic wellness, truth or lifestyle, being different hobbies like gardening and growing herbs and things, all kinds of stuff. And we took on this project of talking about the feminist movement because I felt like I'm seeing more people into like whether it's meditation or a holistic lifestyle. And I just feel like maybe the natural conclusion of that is that more people will be walking away from the toxic feminist movement. Doing these podcasts, I've learned a lot. Blanche, I always learn a lot from watching you. You touch on so many of these topics, but definitely working with Jambalaya Talks and Kevin Tony. And then our new episode came out today with Patriarchal Hannah. She has her own podcast now. She is a traditional stay-at-home mom, a traditional wife, and they focus on like a biblical worldview, much like Jambalaya does. But just covering like the history of it all, I definitely feel like I've learned a lot, and so I'm excited to be here.
Do I go next?
Yep.
Okay. So yeah, this is Jambalaya
first.
Talks. Jambalaya Talks, and everybody knows me as Ebby. And I have a YouTube channel where I primarily deal with a lot of social, cultural issues from a biblical worldview. And I'm here with my friend Katie, excited to do my first show with Blanche and Kevin, who I follow and absolutely love their material. You guys need to follow all three of them. And I'm looking forward to tackling
feminism and its effects on society, and hear everybody's perspective on it.
Is it on me?
Yeah.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
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 Okay. Yeah. All right. So what's up, everybody? My name is Kevin Tony, and I run a humble podcast called the Uncommon Sense Podcast. Currently residing in Charlotte, North Carolina, husband to one, father of two, and I'm just glad to be here with these stellar people tonight to discuss a topic that is pretty loaded, but I think it's interesting, and I think this conversation is necessary. So I appreciate y'all for allowing me to take part. That's
Thank
it.
you. Thank you. I'm excited tonight. I'm ready to woman bash. So let the games begin.
Yes.
When we
Okay.
figure out what a woman is, then we can actually bash them.
Oh yeah, you're right. I might bash.
Yeah. Let's start there.
Okay, so I wanted to just do a couple of hot takes on the feminist movement. I thought that'd be a good place for us to start. My perspective is going to come a little bit more from what I've learned by working on this series. And so when I originally started out, like I kind of explained my thought process is that when we're having a more holistic, organic life, that this is going to be the natural conclusion. But I also felt like we were possibly doomed. And I really didn't have a lot of hope that um, the opposite of the feminist movement, I guess. So, like people that are having a biblical world perspective, being great mothers, people that value life. I really did feel like we were losing before I started this journey. But I no longer feel that way because I was able to be educated on more of the history of the feminist movement. Emmy and I basically tied it all the way back to Adam and Eve. There was a feminist movement that happened in Rome that I was unaware of. And so just seeing like the timeline of all of that, it does give me more hope that, we'll be able to use our voices and educate more young people and definitely have a better future. The feminist movement, in short, in my opinion, is it is and can be very toxic. And I think it's because of some of the words that they use, it makes it very hard to combat. So using words like women empowerment, nobody wants to be against women empowerment, right? Because we're just conditioned to think that that's normal. Women's rights, nobody wants to be against women's rights. But all of these things have contributed to an entire society of people pushing men aside and letting women take the charge. And also, I learned through history that, the feminist movement was actually started by men. So just shaping a little bit more hope for the future is that I think that strong men, especially biblical men, will be able to use their voices to help us combat this feminist movement.
Yeah, and my take is it's very similar to that. I go into a lot of history because I think people too often deal with these issues from the peripheral or just from the externalities, and they try to tackle the symptoms. And you're never going to really address things properly by just attacking the symptoms, because symptoms will always happen, and they're going to kind of morph into other symptoms, and there's intersectionality with all of that. When you deal with the origins, you can kind of attack at the helm why these things even started, and then maybe actually come up with some solutions as to how to, if not stop it, curb it, and make people more aware of it.
The heck.
So are we just following the format or following the flow?
Well, I mean, y'all can just we can just talk. I was just letting y'all
Yeah.
give like the introduction.
Yeah. So I guess just to kind of piggyback off of what Jambalaya was saying, for me, feminism, and I said this on the podcast with Katie and with Louisiana Sister Squad. I think it's the biggest scam that's been pulled over women Probably.
Oh no, Katie's gone and
Think
Kev's
women.
freezing up.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I just think women were sold a bill of goods, where feminism is concerned, and they were led to believe that, you know, they didn't have any rights, and I think that's a problem that's, it's plaguing a lot of our society. People are led to believe that they don't have rights that they actually already have, that they're already entitled to. And women seem to double down on it because they were approached, they had it fed to them on an emotional level, which is how women, consume information. And the women on the panel can correct me if I'm wrong by that. My mother always told me, that women process information much different than men do. And I grew up watching my mom, be submissive to my dad, all my life, and I didn't even know she was being, know what that word was. I just felt like she was treating my dad right, because he was happy and the home was happy. We didn't see them fussing and arguing. They didn't do that in front of us. But I just feel like today that women have been led to believe that they can do things apart from men and be equal. And it's transformed from that we can be equal to men to now that we can dominate men in these spaces that, men have been in. And they don't realize that, they're operating to their detriment in terms of, once they get out there, they feel like, they realize, some of them, if they ever have a come to Jesus moment, they realize that they put the cart before the horse, and they really can't do a lot of things without a man. They have to come back to us, for a lot of things. And, I think that the advent of, the modern woman, the independent woman that we've seen to go through cycles, you know, when I was a kid growing up, the strong woman was, somebody like Linda Carter who played Wonder Woman, or Foxy Brown, but these were women that were strong, but they weren't trying to dominate the men. They knew their place when a man came in the room. Like they, and that was fine. It was championed by women. Everybody was okay with it. But, then it changed to this, I'm an independent woman and I don't need a man and I can do it by myself. And, and now we have this broken, messed up structure of society where feminism has ruined just about everything that we possibly have at our disposal in society. So, and I'm sure we'll hash all that out during this conversation. So we can go from there.
I think one of the biggest misconceptions is, you know, we're all equal in value, but not a role. And I think that's the biggest problem is that they're assigning your value based on what you do. So they told women that if you do what a man does, then that makes you equal to a man. Now, under God's eyes, again, we're all equal in our value, but our roles are different. And it's not like to say that the man's role is more important than the woman's role. But to me, that's a big trick because you convince women if they can just fill these positions, then they can quote unquote be men. No different than what you call a stud
Mm-hmm.
walking around and she has a strap on, walking around with a strap on, and she's feeling like a man, but it's just you're not. But if I have one, then I'm a man. So it's just kind of like that same kind of mindset. I was at a football game one time, Saints versus Falcons. Ironically, I got Katie and Ebony on here, and there was some Saints fans in front of me and some Falcons fans behind me. And it was about 3 white women and it was about 4 black women, but the black women were LGBTQ studville, and then the white girls were like just southern white girls, and so they're yelling who that, and then the white girls are saying go Falcons, so it's like who that go but I'm in the middle though, so they're going back and forth, so then they turn around and it's a face off, and the
Manny Fresh against the Karens.
Right, right. So, and I'm giving y'all the races because you got to see the dynamic. So the white girls say, "Now, young ladies, that's no way to act." And then when she said that, they just got they got furious, right?
Oh
So they
Lord.
started cursing, threatening, like to fight, and they kept saying, "Ma'am, young lady," and they just kept saying it. They were just so one of them steps out in the front and she says, "I'm gonna pull it out,"
Oh Lord.
right? And everybody took their phones out. Like everybody,
Oh
like,
no.
everybody
Oh
was just.
snap.
But she didn't do it though. But she didn't do it. But yeah, it was funny though. It was funny.
Wait, what was she gonna pull out, Bland?
She, they wear the strap-ons. They wear them.
Yeah.
No, I don't know that.
Yeah, they walk around with
Come
them
on,
on. Yeah.
Katie.
Come
Don't
on.
be ignorant.
They want to
Oh,
feel like a man, so
Yeah.
they need
So
that.
she
They
was
need
gonna
the
pull it out,
apparatus.
and everybody put their phones out, but she didn't do it.
gross.
Yeah.
They
Well,
want
I'm
to
glad
have
she didn't.
pretend big D energy, but
Right.
it
Yeah.
can come
Right.
off. Strappable big D energy.
Strappable energy.
That's terrible. That's terrible.
That's terrible.
It's terrible. No, I had no idea that they did that, and now I'm like just slightly more uncomfortable. Okay.
Oh,
To
they got
kind
to
of
play that
piggyback
role to
on,
the limit.
Yeah.
oh yeah, to kind of piggyback on what Kevin was talking about, it's interesting, right? Because like, if you look at anything, and I don't care what it is, but especially as it relates to anything related to God, anytime people look to like redefine what He's already defined, then that means that they have to make a substitute. And unfortunately, and fortunately, the substitute does two things. One, it's going to still have the origins of the purpose of that thing, but it's perverted, right? So that's why you see like women wearing strap-ons, because it's inherent in them to not want to be a man, but to want to be with a man. But because they have a false understanding of what that relationship is, they seek to take on the identity. Now, a lot of times you'll find these women have horrible relationships with their fathers and or their mothers, right? It could be that their mother was not in their life, or their mother was very domineering, like my mother is. Or you have men who they were in the home but they weren't present, they just kind of were a paycheck. So really it's odd, because the way God made us, where we are desiring to worship Him and we need to worship Him, when we don't and we replace Him, this is what you get. We try to be the thing that we actually need or desire, and it's really unfortunate and sad. Just like you see children trying to be adults, it's usually because there weren't any present parents, in their home. So they try to big up and act like they're manly and they're grown, and they're not. That's why they, with their half developed minds, try to go out and do things that they really can't emotionally, they can't really deal with.
Hmm. It's crazy how these women, they strive so hard to become the image that they hate so much. And that's really what it's born out of. I mean, they, some father or some man did them wrong. They hate men. You talk to some people in that space or those groups, they talk about how much they hate men. Like, oh, men are no good. They're dogs at this. And I can be more comfortable around women. But they take on those same roles and take on the image of the people they hate, and they end up emulating that as much as they can. And their minds are so twisted that they don't see it. And I think that's what happens with a lot of these people that get caught up in these groups, whereas, feminism and, now, these women are riding for men that are basically erasing them. And I'm like, y'all don't see this happening? Like, this is not what y'all fought for. Like, what are we really doing?
And what's funny is they're not emulating a good man either. Usually,
Right.
Exactly.
I've seen some of these relationships now. How close? Obviously didn't know what they were packing. However, I've seen, sorry. I've seen a lot of these, kind of like the dynamics of some of these relationships just from having friends and coworkers and employees and things like that. And, I just want to really kind of preface is that none of this conversation is rooted in hate. I think that just as much as these people are allowed to have a platform to kind of spew their propaganda and things like that, it's really important for us to have the conversation to point out, what do we see in the feminist movement?
Absolutely.
I know that something that's really exposing for me is to say that this feminist movement is about women empowerment and all of these things, but yet if you're a woman that has a different perspective, you're not allowed to share that same space. So it doesn't matter, what your skin color is. It doesn't matter what your sexual preference is. It doesn't matter any of those things. What matters is that your ideas align with that. And if they don't, you're just simply not allowed. And I feel like that's something that's a real big red flag to anybody that just didn't, if anybody just takes a really honest look and asks themselves, that's one of the first things you would probably see is that people with a different perspective, you're not allowed to speak.
Yeah, I kind of want to, if nobody's going to step up, I just want to kind of say that I actually looked up some of the terms for our title because you know me, Katie, I need to know what words mean. And I was just looking up the butterfly effect. And I know I'd heard of it before, but I didn't really know what it meant. And this is what I found. It says the butterfly effect is actually the underlying principle of chaos theory, right? And the butterfly effect is a phenomenon that argues that small, insignificant events can have large and unforeseen consequences over time. But what is chaos theory? Chaos theory is the belief that within apparent randomness of chaotic systems, there are underlying patterns, right? So an example of this, 4 of them would be interconnection, feedback loops, repetition, and self-similarity, which is similarity just means like the whole has the same shape as one or more of the parts. And that's important because feminism, when you look at its origins and then you bring it all the way back today, they're not doing anything different, but they're suffering the consequences of what they initially planted. They use a lot of scientific mathematical jargon to describe it. When I was reading it, I'm like, wait, this is scriptural. It just means you reap what you sow. To make it really basic, right? That's really what it means. And all of the stuff that's happening, like I'll throw a quick example out there. One of the questions that I'm going to present to you all is this. Explain this to me, or riddle me this, Batman, as they say. How is it that feminism, right, argued against marriage in the past? Remember, because they believed that this was somehow they were taking an L to stay home with their children and be married. It was interfering with their careers and their education, and they wanted to go out, and be an individual aside or apart from a man. But notice with the advent of the LGBT, and I really shouldn't say with the advent because third wave feminism had lesbianism and race in it. But look at how now in the culture, those same people that were kicking marriage to the curb are now advocating and fighting for it amongst the LGBT. Explain that. Isn't that a butterfly effect? That's a butterfly effect if I ever saw one. That's the question I'm putting to the panel.
I would say that they were really against tradition. If you think about it, if you want something to be chaotic, you got to uproot everything that's traditional. So you have to get rid of everything they're pretty much God intended. That was man and woman, family, be fruitful and multiply, replenish the earth, subdue it, all those things. So to me, they weren't against marriage per se. They were against the normal marriage. They don't mind the 2 women, 2 men, 2 trans, whatever, getting married. They just mind the traditional marriage because to me, it's order and structure. These folks really want to be in charge. They got to have everything chaotic. A child has to go to school and be questioning, well, what am I, a boy? Am I a girl? They need chaos for this thing to work. And so to me, that was their intent. Their intent was to have us question even the most simplest of things. 2 + 2 is 4, but math is racist. So what do you do? So it's just all this stuff. So to me, I don't think they were against what we're doing. Actually, I think they wanted their version of it.
But look at and that's true. I agree with you because that's actually the biblical view, right? They always want to turn everything over on its side because obviously Hasatan hates order, and he especially hates God's order. But I think it's interesting to kind of poke the bear a little bit with their hypocrisy because remember, marriage was an oppressive institution. So marriage isn't oppressive when it's 2 women and 2 men. It's the same institution. You don't feel like it's stopping you from your potential success. Because I know for a fact that if you ever have been around any gay community, you find a couple of things. They're extremely abusive physically, okay? Mm-hmm. And those numbers don't really get reported. because it's just considered battery, right? It's not looked at as a man beating a woman. It's just two women fighting, right? And then you have the drug usage is extremely higher because it has to offset the depression and suicide numbers, which are extremely high. Of course, they'll say that the suicide and depression is due to not being accepted in society, which is a load of garbage, right? Because I don't know about you, when I see people walking down the street, I don't know if they're a mom and a daughter, two sisters, or two lesbians, unless they do something to show me that's what they are. Right? So they've got to become the victim and also the perpetrator. You see what I'm saying? They set themselves up so we can feel some type of emotional kind of gut-wrenching pain for them being, I guess, mistreated, which of course is a farce. But at the same time, they put it out there. They are basically, now that I think about it, the Harry and the Megans of the world. Please stop looking at us taking pictures. Please stop following us.
I
They are
wanted
their
to
own
kind of
paparazzi.
I wanted to kind of chime in and ask the same, like just along those lines, is like if they have to destroy everything that was already there, right? Like nothing about, a traditional life and all of that is good to them, right? Why do they get to use terms like marriage? And why do they continue to do that and follow those same dynamics? So like we talked about emulating, but then we also know that they want to destroy it. So would one of you guys like to kind of take a stab at that one?
Okay, well, I'm gonna just say this real quick, and I'm gonna let y'all go. I liken it to the analogy of I'm in Atlanta, and this is the probably official gay capital of the world. And if there was one straight club left in Atlanta, if there was one, and all the rest of them were gay, what do you think all the gay people would do?
Go to the straight club.
They'd all go
Take it
to the
over.
straight club.
Yep.
And so to me, I don't really think it's like I think they just want to. It's almost like the joy of just perverting something that has been like, I don't know. It's like defacing property, or it's kind of like you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's that
To
whole
bring the
thing
value
where
down.
this is the straight club. We're gonna take it over. Now it's the straight club, but it's a bunch of which is what the clubs ended up being anyway. But now it's a straight club, but it's even when you hear them even say stuff like, I don't want to harp on gay, but even when they say they want to turn a straight man out, I'm like, if he messes with you, he's not straight. Like, but
Exactly.
but their
Exactly.
mindset is they want to get the straight guy to be them. I don't know, it's just a weird
It's
concept.
like a power struggle.
Yeah, it's like power.
They
Yeah,
want
power.
well, that's what I mean. We also kind of established that the feminist movement is also to establish not just equality, it's about being superior and it's about having dominance and being in control and all of those things. So they need to be in control of everything from themselves down on out. Okay, cool.
But yet at the same time, they're victims. It's almost like crying. It's like that video you showed me earlier, Katie, with the little girl who was like splashing herself on the face with the hose, but she was the one holding it, right? It's like you're crying about something happening, but you're creating it. Now, a lot of this is connected to intersectionality, because remember what intersectionality is. It's the argument that, like, your identity markers, if you're a woman and you're Black, well, these aren't independent of each other, right? So they create like their own complex type of oppression. That's why whenever you discuss feminism, it's very easy to kind of segue into race, and it's easy to segue into LGBT. You can't even really discuss one without kind of looping into the other. And also too, I think the unfortunate thing is when you're a woman talking to other women, right? Because I was raised by nothing but 4 generations of women, and you guys can pray for me later. It was horrible, but unfortunately, right? Well, unfortunately for the culture and fortunately for my family, I don't see myself as a victim. I see these are the markers of destruction of family. So I'm going to be the curse breaker and not do that to my children. I'm going to stay in my relationship. I'm going to work towards it. My soon to be 21-year-old daughter, her name is Talia. She told me 2 days ago, we were having a conversation because, she's at that age where she's like, I want to be married one day. And, I want to have children. And I'm glad that my daughters actually want to be a mother and be a wife. And she said, but you know what I'm grateful for, Mom? She said, I'm grateful that I saw you and Daddy struggle and like go through challenges, because I've been married 22 years. The first 5 years, I was ready to throw him in the lake, and I'm sure he was ready to throw me in the lake too. But we stuck it out
But
because
the grace of God.
but the grace of God, and also too, Kev, I have to tell you honestly, anything worth having is worth sacrificing for. It
Yeah.
has to be, otherwise you can't appreciate things till you get to the other side of it. And that's why I hate when the word love is thrown around, because you can't really love anything until you've lost something in order to have it. Right. And so, like,
Yeah.
even with your children, you go through pain before you birth children. They don't just pop up here. Right. So you appreciate them because you remember the struggle. They don't, but you remember the struggle you went through to give life to them. So when you're married, and your children see you struggle and fight, and you go through all kind of stuff, and then you arrive at this place where there's an appreciation and a grace. And like, I adore my husband. That's my best friend. I don't have girl best friends. I mean, Katie's my bestie, but my husband's my first bestie. Right. So everything that I want to talk about, I talk to him about. I have nothing that I can't talk to him about. That's as it should be, because he is my brother in Christ first and foremost, right? Then he's my intimate partner. Then he's the father of my children, all these things. So my children have seen us go through it. Well, my eldest did. And now she sees the backside of that. She's like, thank you, mommy, because when I get married, I'm not going to have any misgivings about some fairy tale ideology of what marriage is. It's a struggle. It's a working partnership, right? And it's a covenant. So these women who opine about, well, I was raised by a single mom, and somebody in the comments said I didn't ask to be put in this situation. Amen. I don't think any child asks to be in a situation where they're raised by one parent or the other. However, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. It's what
I have
you
a
do with
question.
what you saw.
I have a question for the ladies. So just to think about this whole dynamic, and just going off of what you said, Jambalaya, about, you know, your husband is your best friend. And, you know, as women who are both married, like when you hear these modern terms like, oh, you're a pick me, or um or you're I wouldn't be submissive, or I'm not a slave to my husband, like when y'all hear that stuff from women who are obviously single, like what kind of thing, like what goes to your mind, like how do you respond to that, like
Come
because
on,
that's
Katie.
obviously
Come
rooted in
preach.
feminism.
Preach,
So I
Katie.
so I don't know about being a pick me girl. I wasn't married until I was 35. So I was just never. I actually didn't want to be married for a long time because of I was watching my other friends in these long relationships saying, if he doesn't propose to me by X day, like let's use Christmas. If he doesn't propose to me by Christmas, and we're like in January, right? Then it's over. And I'm like, if you know this far ahead of time that you'll leave him because you're not getting what you want, then why don't you just leave him now? Like, I really hated that. And that gave me such a bad taste into what relationships really held for me. But what kind of changed my perspective, obviously my relationship now and being married, I would just say that they've probably not experienced what it's like to date a good man, a godly man, a God-fearing man, and they're probably just really missing out. But you're never going to wind up with those kinds of men if you're not preparing yourself to say, like, this is what I want. This is what God has in store for me. This is the kind of life that I envision. And then when you do meet that man and all of those things are discussed, I don't think that we mean an abusive situation when we're talking about being submissive. That's something that's very misconstrued. And hopefully
Hmm.
Ebby will kind of like talk about what does being submissive mean in a real biblical perspective. It doesn't mean like if my husband is talking that I absolutely don't interrupt him. It doesn't mean that, he's like, where's my dinner, woman? And things like that. Like, none of those things happen inside of my household. It's a very cohesive relationship of us being able to work together and talk things out. Like, I'm just recently married. So looking at somebody like Abby and how much like I just appreciate the information that she shares, knowing that even her relationship was difficult in the beginning, but being able to work through it. That's why it's important to have, I guess kind of like, elders or people with experience and things like that, because they can really guide you along life as opposed to just you trying to figure it out on yourself because you know what's best. Because they can really guide you along life.
Yeah, my take on submission, and far be it for me to act like, oh, I've always been submissive. No, I used to wild out. And I'm just going to keep it 100 because, as I said, I was raised by a great grandmother, a grandmother, and an aunt, and my mom. All angry, all bitter, all single. Which, as I'm sure you all can see, that probably really influenced my take on men. And it was really, really bad. So I'll just say this. I saw my husband speaking to me or correcting me or even correcting our first child together as him trying to domineer or control me. Right. Even the tone of his voice, because he has a deep voice and he's got a thick island accent. So you can imagine, when he's, telling my oldest child as a young child to sit down, I'm like, don't talk to her like that. And he's like, I'm a man. I'm not going to sound like you, so, but the great thing about yielding and submitting to Christ is that you will either submit to Christ or he'll break you, right? The cornerstone will either crush you or you're going to yield. And so I want to do what God wants me to do. That's been my saving grace, is that I really actually desire to be pleasing to him. And of course, that has a trickle down effect because my husband is the beneficiary of that. I learned that submission is not me doing whatever my husband says, or like feminism teaches that I'm no longer an individual and now I don't have my own thoughts in my own mind. Anybody hearing me speak knows that I'm strong-willed and I have a mind and I think very critically. However, me submitting to my husband is me laying down my will in preference for what his leadership says is best for us. So it's me having the strength and the ability and not utilizing it because I am preferring him to myself. And if you think about it, that's exactly what Christ did when he died for us. Literally, it says he had the same position as God, right? But he considered it no lowly thing to lay it aside. And so I find being submissive beautiful because it allows me to exemplify a Christ likeness to my husband. We have conversations and I might tell him, look, well, this is what I think about it. And let me just make a suggestion. That's how I'll preface it to him. So he doesn't feel like, yeah, I think you should do blah, blah. No, because my husband, he's very patriarchal. He'll shut down real quick. Like, I'm not even listening to you anymore. Right. So I don't talk to him like that. I go, well, can I make a suggestion? He's like, sure, go ahead. And then I make the suggestion and he goes, I hear you. That sounds really great. Let me look into it and I'll get back with you. And then when he gets back with me, he's like, yeah, I decided to do it. Go ahead and do what I was going to do. And I'm like, okay. I said, look, I already gave my piece on it. I'm going to support you whichever way you go. And I feel like because I have that much respect for him, I get so much love back from him. He's very gentle. Mm-hmm. He's very kind. There are times that, he knows I'm a woman and I'm going to think a little bit more emotionally about things. Right. And he's very genteel in that regard. But when my husband says like, that's it. And I don't push, I don't shove, I don't manipulate. I don't do any of that because I trust God and I trust that he entrusts himself to God. So I don't have any fear because even if my husband makes a misstep, let's say out of ignorance or not knowing everything, I trust that God's got us. So I don't feel like I have to do any type of, I don't have to do any dramatic stuff to try to run over him. I really don't.
Yeah.
Would you mind if I said one more thing before you guys go ahead? Is that a feminist inside of a marriage is the idea of marriage that drives women crazy. The trying to be the leader of the household, trying to control everything. You do work, you do clean, you do rear the children, and that's all of the things that makes you not do any of the things very well. And so I think that is a really good point to kind of dispel why this feminist movement is not working inside of marriages as well. That's when you get to the point of exhaustion. That's when women get tired. That's when women say, well, he doesn't do anything because you've relegated him to just like working and going to, rest on the sofa and watching TV because you're not giving him the space to fulfill his role. So I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, that's excellent.
Blanche, what you say?
I would say that piggybacking off of Jambalaya and Katie is just it's almost like they wanted, if there was going to be a marriage between a man and a woman, they wanted it to be between a woman that was dominant and a man that was subservient. Because if you think about it, if a woman is submissive to her husband, then she's not going to fall for all of the propaganda out there. She's not going to fall for none of the feminist stuff. She's not she's going to be more grounded. So you can't really manipulate her if she's submitting to some righteous authority. So I just think that if they do want man and woman in the household, they want what Katie is describing and the opposite of what Jambalaya is describing, to where the women run the household. And now you have a man under her leadership. You have children under her leadership. You think about it, you get a whole community. You have a whole community of women that are basically running. They have the men docile and they have the children indoctrinated. So, they're going to make the women, they're going to make the daughters ultra independent, and they're going to make the young men, very passive like the father. So to me, the plan will work either way. If you don't have the marriage, it works. And if you do have the marriage, their plan will still work.
It's weird because I often lament, I mean, even being a married woman, my husband and I, and you guys will probably feel some of this. I'm 4 years his senior. I'll be 50 in September. And he and I still, with that small age gap, feel the unfortunate, what can I call it? Like there's a lack of elders to speak into people's lives. Like my husband and I didn't have any man or woman in the family. I mean, my husband has a huge family. I went to his country in St. Lucia, and like everybody there, they're cousins. So nobody can date because they might end up with a cousin. And you can travel the island in a day. It's small, right? It's in the Antilles. And one thing I noticed was there's still a patriarchal system there, right? There's still a familial system. But as they come to the States, they start adapting and adopting a lot of Western mindset. And because of that, imagine my husband and I, when we had issues and rifts, there was nobody to go to. Like my mom was like, just pack your stuff up and leave him. Because, obviously that's why she's not married right now. But unfortunately, we had nobody we could talk to like give us wise counsel or godly counsel. So we had to kind of work through this ourselves. And so I feel very compelled to speak to young women. All of my time in ministry in the church was always working with young girls. And, whether it was in the prison system or whatever, because I was like, if I could have had somebody speak life to me and tell me, listen, you don't have to be angry and bitter. Men are not your enemy. You are your own worst enemy. You're making decisions that are high risk. They're going to lead into long-term issues if you don't stop, right? And so there are options. And I didn't know that I had options. So, I mean, I had to go to prison. I had to have a really horrible life at a young age to get to finally realizing that life has a purpose. And I don't want other women to have to experience that before they just calm down, right? Really think about what their purpose is, and that it's not to try to berate and belittle men and then wonder why when they hit the wall at 40, they can't find anybody that wants to marry them, or why nobody opens the door for them because they've scared all the men off, or half the men are, wearing skirts like Cam Newton.
First of all, shout out to you, Jambalaya, because you're older than your husband, and you still have the maturity, both just secularly and spiritually, to know that, understand that submissive role, to him in that authority position, because most women, they just can't, especially nowadays, they can't fathom that.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is, just because they just haven't seen it. They don't have a concept of what that's like. And, I remember being, in high school, and my friends in high school are kids that I went to high school with. And, they used to make fun of me. They just couldn't believe that my mom and dad were still married. They didn't have a concept of that. The girls and the guys. When I got to college, when I went to college for new student orientation, that was a big deal because I was the first person in my family. I'm the cliche. I was the first person in my family to go to college. So yeah, that was me. And when I went for new student orientation, my entire family came. My grandfather came, my aunt, my uncle came, my sisters, and everybody came. It was a big send off. And I remember being in the dorm, and some of the guys that I was meeting, they were like, "Oh, your mom and your dad came." It was foreign to them. And because they haven't seen that, you talk to these young ladies, they don't know who their father is. Or if they do, they have like this piecemeal relationship with him, where he's half in, half out, absentee. There sometimes they can depend on him, sometimes they can't, or most times they can't. They don't have a concept of that, and so their image of a man is distorted, and it's very triggering for them. And a lot of that has to do with how you see single women. They have a hard time making adjustments in church when they come into church, because how do we address God? We call him our father. And when they say that, it's triggering for them in their minds, because they automatically revert back to what they didn't have growing up. And it's hard for them to reconcile what that image of a father is, because it's been so tainted and so just jacked up. And so when they hear that they need to be submissive to a man, that's like almost like fighting words, because they're like, why should I be submissive to a man when men have done me wrong, or men have mistreated me, and now I need to submit to one, or come under the authority of another man? It takes a reconciliation of them coming to Christ, and learning that dynamic between a father and his child, through Christ, that can kind of download what that relationship is supposed to be like. Because I've learned that really none of us really, we don't know who we are until we meet Jesus. And so when he gives us that identity of who we are, some women can grab a hold to it, and obviously, Jambalaya, you were able to do that. Katie, you were able to do that, and without any issues. And I think that's the problem with most women, is it starts at home. And that's why I'll always say fatherlessness is the root of all of this stuff that we deal with, all of these issues. If a good dad was at home, Gloria Steinem wouldn't have been able to do what she did. All of these, these fathers, these women who have done all of these things, and they claim to be these feminist people, and all it takes is, hey, the love of a good father at home, taking care of them, would have changed all of that. They have daddy issues. That's why they get with men, and they call him daddy and all of that. And I can't stand it. That's like nails on a
My mom did
chalkboard.
that.
I
Yeah, my
can't.
mom is.
Oh God.
Yeah, it's real cringy.
It's
It's real cringy.
very cringy. I hate that, man. I know some of
Yeah.
my friends, they like it when their girl calls him daddy, and I'm like, no, man, you're not her father, man. Like, why are you even answering to that? So, but yeah, shout out to you, and shout out to you, Katie, because it takes a lot. I mean, today in 2023, women are up against a lot in terms of what's thrown at you guys in society, and how you're viewed in society and marginalized, because you make a choice to be suitable help, which is what God has designed you for, to be a helper to your husband. Eve was Adam's helper. The wife, that's her. Your ministry is to help your husband.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? In
That's
every
right.
area. So I even go as far as to say, when Adam made the decision to eat of the fruit, Eve was fulfilling her ministry by helping Adam make that decision. So
Mm.
it's all about that suitable help, and to be a helper. My wife helps me in so many ways that, I mean, I don't know. Hey, that's a whole nother thing, but that's just what about. So bravo to y'all, for being able to, kind of embrace that role, as a wife, and helping it, because when you're a good wife, I think that helps you be a good mom, as well. That's a part of it too. They go hand in hand. It's that whole family dynamic. So
Well, I mean, we have to, because if not, they're turning us into LinkedIn profiles instead of humans. I mean, if you
oh my
think about it, I
God.
mean, yeah, I mean, everything is, what is Kevin Samuels used the term, high profile man, high profile,
Yeah.
High
and
value.
A
high
high
value.
value
Thank
man.
you. And I was watching something today that said that high profile men actually get cheated on at an exponential level higher than just regular normies. And that makes sense, right? Because if you want, the IG chick, um, and you want to fly out to Dubai, what those people in that realm forget is that those caliber of women, right, The same way they were attracted to you because you had the material wealth, they have the pick of the litter too of men in your same group. So they obviously cheat because now they have more options, the same way Kevin said men did. Right. And so now everybody's just a LinkedIn profile. You're not even a person anymore. And that's why I
Shameful.
think it is. And that's why I think ideas that, or I should say, lifestyles and perspectives like Katie and I are so they're so minimal, is because really they've done a number on women who stay at home. Look, when I first started homeschooling, okay, all of my family members, before it could even be known in the public, all of my family members poo-pooed on it. They're like, oh, they're going to be socially awkward. And this is before like the whole LGBT thing was being pushed in the schools. There wasn't even a trans bathroom. There was none of that. And I was forced to homeschool because my daughter, who was in 4th grade, was sexually assaulted.
Wow.
Okay. And so, yes. Now, mind you, I have a 9th grade education. I told you this the other day, Kev. And so it was daunting because I'm like, I don't want to wreck my kids, education. Right. But Kev, like you said, just say you're homeschooled, because I did school myself. So I homeschooled myself. And so I met with a woman who got her degree in teaching, and she was the manager over the parish of homeschools here. And she said, Ebony, listen, I got my degree in teaching, but none of my children, she had 6 of them, none of them have ever stepped foot in a public school, because I know what the system is. I will help you.
Shout out to her.
Yes. And she introduced me to curriculum. I went through like 3 or 4 before I found the right niche for my kids. And my first child, who was homeschooled, is now in college for drafting and works as an intern in a drafting company that's owned by Christian people, by the way. She plays piano like Mozart and Liszt. She writes music. My middle child, who's 15, and my 10-year-old daughter, they both are homeschooled. They've never seen a public school. Now, I say all that not to brag, because there were a lot of challenges with that. But I say it because if you are focused on your family, if you're focused on having order, guess what? God enables you to do a lot of things you think you can't do. And it's not about your resources, it's about his. Because my husband, we live on 1 paycheck. We live better now than we did when I was working. That's no joke. We live better now. We couldn't take trips or do anything when we both were working, because more money was going out the house to pay for daycare. When I started staying home with my children, one thing I learned was I got to see how my children should be educated. I learned how they learn. I obviously didn't know that when they were going to school. I stopped vaccinating my children. I started looking into naturopathic medicine and home health. And that's how I became a coach, because I started actually studying biology during COVID, because they had free Harvard classes. Like, these are things that are accessible to anybody who's looking for them. Right. And I found what my niche was. I like helping people get better spiritually and physically. So I started actually training my children to get away from bad eating. We don't have white sugar and white flour in my house. We don't eat that stuff. So I started learning about that. Then after that, I started educating myself, because I realized, you know what? I love history. I love everything that has an origin story to it. I love what makes people tick. And then as I started growing in God and growing in these things, I was able to share them with my children. My daughters can have a deep intellectual conversation and critically think just about any topic you can think about. Because the same way I talk to you all, that's how I speak to them. And my husband, the same thing. So there can't be, I'm kind of one of those people that I don't like excuses. They piss me off, to be honest with you, because I'm really tired of women complaining and just whining about what they don't have, what they didn't get. Look, I come from the school of hard knocks. I did not have it easy. My mother was a crackhead. I did not have it easy. I could, if anybody wants to lament and give a story, I could give one. But we all have stories. We all have stories. So either you're going to keep running to win the medal at the Oppression Olympics, or you're going to get off your fat diabetic backside, as Blanche says to say. Put on your track shoes and get to stepping. And you start with what you know and what you can do presently, and do that. And God says, the little you have, I will add to it. But the little you have, you don't do the right thing with, even that I'm gonna take away. That's a principle. That's law. That's set in the earth. Stop talking and whining about it, and do something.
Yeah.
I hope I didn't piss anybody off in the comments, Blanche. I'm sorry.
No, you good. We have a question. I guess we can have Katie and Kevin answer it. How come feminists don't care about men doing women face and stealing opportunities from women?
That's a good
That's a
question.
good one.
I do. Well, I care. I don't know why feminists don't care. I think that it's again, it just goes back to something that's very easy to ask a feminist that question, and they will have to expose their own thought process, and they might not change right then and right there when you ask the question, but anybody with just a half a brain is going to think about that a little bit harder after the fact. I say that all of the time, that there's this thing that everybody is so caught up in race, and certain people, you can't say black, or you can't say, you can't do black face, or if you talk a certain way, it's acting white, and this and that. There's so many people that are so quick to put those labels on people.
Mhm.
But I mean, first of all, a man pretending to be a woman and dominating women is the actual oppression of women. And then it is very upsetting to see just a man put on woman face and say that he's a woman, and then have these other feminist women saying, yeah, they deserve space here, because I myself as a woman am not included in that space because of my own thoughts and ideas. So sometimes it is funny, and it is funny to laugh at, but it's also just it's very sad to me that we are where we are. And I think what makes me most sad about it is that these are people with mental disorders that are going untreated. Their delusion and their insanity is being affirmed. And that's what's really heartbreaking to me. It's the same along the lines of like people that don't value life, and people that say that, a fetus is a clump of cells. And all of those things, in my opinion, are really um, tied together, and speaks volumes about a person when they can say these things. They have a very disconnected, their brain and their heart is very disconnected, and their mouth and their spirit is very disconnected. And it's concerning for me.
So what it is for me is, and I don't, Blanche, I'm not trying to get your channel striked or anything like that. So I'm gonna just spell the word and then go from there. But the reason that women are comfortable with it now is because these men, what they are now, who they used to be is, and like these women have been comfortable. We grew up. You heard the term FAG hag. These are the girls that they had the one gay acting guy that was in their crew. He was safe. They didn't have to worry about him hitting on them or trying to get with them or trying to sleep with them. And he was always around. And so what does he do? He's hanging with all of these girls, and eventually he thinks that he can be one. And because he thinks he can be one, girl, that blouse looks good on you. And he thinks it probably look good on him, and she's not wearing them heels right, so on and so forth. And so it's an evolution of that to me. And so I blame women for that, because I saw it in high school as early as junior high. If I can go back and remember it, there were guys that were kind of sweet acting. My homeboy used to say they was sweet as bear meat, and they were always hanging. All the cute girls hung around this one guy, but he was never trying to get with any of them. And so we found out quick in junior high and even in high school that if you wanted to get in good with these girls, you had to be cool with him because he was the plug. And I
No
saw
pun
that.
intended.
Pause. You got to
Yeah,
pause.
like
after
pause,
that.
right,
You gotta pause.
right, right. So he was, and I saw that in college. You know, um, I saw it in college where the one sweet acting guy would be around all the girls. He was cool with all of them, and then it just evolved from there. They didn't want anybody to talk about him. You couldn't talk about him. Yes, we know he just that's just how he is. You can't say anything about him. And so it just it's levels to it. They just ascended to different levels. They conquered another level, and then they started trading makeup tips, and then next thing you know, you got them out here looking like Magic Johnson Jr. And it's just this whole this whole thing.
Well, that's a
That's how,
mess right there.
yeah,
Whew,
that's how it evolved. And so
that's a
I
mess.
think that women just, it was something subtle. It came over time, and when before women knew it, they were like, well, we knew he was like this, or he's always been this way. So to them it makes sense, and so they don't come against it because they watched it unfold and they just feel like, well, they just evolved into who they were. And that's why, to me, just in my opinion, that's why it's so acceptable to feminist women who claim to be feminists, that they'll accept, a man who wants to dress up and be like them and be better than them and take them to another level, what they can do to another level. And, it's all a mess. It really is. So
Do you guys remember the show Queer Eye for the Straight Guy?
I never watched it.
I
But
never
did you guys
watched
ever
it, but I
hear about
remember it.
it?
Yeah, I
Okay,
remember
do
it.
you guys
I
know what
remember.
year?
Huh?
You guys know what year that was that it came out?
In the 2000s, right?
Yeah.
Yes, 2003. Okay, now you got to remember what their tagline was. It was 5 gay men try to improve the lives. We could just stop right there and have a whole conversation, but try to improve the lives and confidence of straight men. So basically, you've got 5 men who like men telling other men how to be for their women. I mean, if you don't, so you're talking about a slow crawl, right?
A
Oh,
running
yeah, I
oxymoron.
get it. Queer eye for the
For
straight guy.
straight guy, yes.
Oh, I get it.
You
Okay,
get it?
I get
Okay.
it.
So, but just think about this, right? This is
Pause,
how
but I get
social
it.
engineering works. Social engineering work, because remember that show came out, and they kind of like to dip their toe in the proverbial water to kind of see the reaction. And like you said, Kev, it's primarily women who watch these shows, and they know that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so once you have that out and people kind of become desensitized, you kind of drop it, you don't really hear about it. And then the next thing you know, you have somebody named James Charles who's on YouTube showing women how to do makeup tutorials. Then it's a bunch of men on YouTube
My
watching
God.
how to put on makeup. I've never needed a man to show me how to put on makeup ever, right? But these women, oh, he's beating his face. Yeah, girl, he could show you how to make. And then they're buying their makeup line. And it's because exactly what God says, that the woman was deceived. When you hear about women in the Bible, where they call silly and weak-willed, right? Easily manipulated. Because even if you watch shows now, you know what I enjoy watching and just kind of like just having a good laugh. I love watching shows where they bring out a woman and they ask a panel of women, right? And then they'll bring out like 1 or 2 men later. They ask the panel of women, what do you think about this woman? Is she beautiful? And the woman will literally look like Lizzo. And I promise you guys, every single woman on that.
Is this the one where like they were rating them, and the big
Yes.
one, she was like,
Yes.
oh, probably my breast, but I got a big butt. But she had like this green witchly hair, and she was like shaped like a potato.
Katie,
And she gave her
sounds
like
like all of them.
like
She's built like a brown
I
bear.
only saw that one clip. I had never watched that before, but yeah. And then then the guys are like, what?
They're honest. They're
Yeah.
To be honest, the women straight up lie. And I'm looking at the women like, you lying. Because Katie, you know how we talk when we get together, how girls talk. Like, girl, what's she doing with that outfit on? She wrong for that. Did you see her toes? But on the panel, they're like, oh yeah, you know what? I can tell that your personality like makes you beautiful. Like I can see, like you're gorge, babe. And I'm looking like, you're lying. She looks like the Lion King. Why are you lying to her? And then the men come out and they're like, nah, hard pass. Nope, she a 5. Nope, she's a 2. And they all tell the truth because men don't care. They're not going to be emotional. Like that video I posted of that African man, Kev, when he was
Stop talking about inner beauty. I was thinking that the whole time. If you ugly, you ugly.
He's like, no man is looking at you talking about they have an X-ray. They cannot see your inner beauty.
Yeah.
I want to flip the question and ask the guys the same thing. I mean, I know that like real men are not really threatened by women dressing up like men. But I want to flip the question around and ask you guys that, because I don't want to target just, the men dressing up like women, because there's a lot of women that do it too, whether it be studs or, I mean, now with, the affirming care and stuff like that, you see, oh my gosh, if I see one more picture of the after of a surgery from a woman changing into a man, my gosh, like I need to figure out how to block that from my feed. This morning, I almost choked on my coffee. I was like, what is that?
Well, you haven't lived
internet for me.
Yeah, you
I gotta go, guys.
You haven't lived until you've seen these TikToks where they show women with their breast out, but they have like a beard. And
Oh my God.
It's like Baphomet on TikTok. It's horrible.
But
I'm
you know
a.
what's crazy? Somebody mentioned. Think about she mentioned the Golden Girls show.
Mm-hmm.
That was like a feminist show though. Like you
Oh,
think
it
about
sure
it, it was just like
was.
Yep.
4 single women, just
Man.
like 90 years old, running the streets. Like you know what I'm saying?
Sex in the City was that too.
Sex
Oh
in the
yeah, I never
City.
watched that
Yep.
trash. Mhm. I did like Golden Girls because I did like Ruth. I mean, not Ruth, but like Blanche.
Blanche.
But
Yeah, you
now that I
like
think about it, it really was a feminist show. It sure was.
I'll let Blanche answer that question first because he's the single guy. The eligible bachelor in the room.
We gotta pray for Blanche so he don't get these
Yeah.
transformers
what was the
sitting on him.
question?
She asked, like, how do we as men, feel about women that dress like men,
Oh,
like
The
this?
oh,
Yeah,
strap-ons.
I got
yeah.
you. Oh,
The Transformers.
More than meets.
I'm gonna be honest. Women that were like tomboys it's a turn off. I just don't. I like girls. Women to be girly. I like women to be feminine. I don't like all that trying to be tough. I don't like when I saw the brat get fined for a second, I was upset. I'm like,
Yeah, right.
you know, she got fined and then you went back to the. I don't like that kind of stuff. I don't like it. I don't like it.
It's terrible.
It's horrible. Now she walking around looking like a pregnant midget. Like she just
That's
a
horrible.
pregnant male midget, I should say.
That's horrible. With white sperm donor. Let's not even talk about that one.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, the brat, she had everybody twisted. When she came out, it was like, dang, we didn't know she looked like that. But
man, the brat was so cold. I got upset though. Then I found out she was messing with Allen Iverson. I'm like, what the world is going on?
What?
Yeah.
Yes.
What? Oh,
he couldn't save her though.
Yeah, he couldn't save her.
he couldn't save her though. For me, like, so one of my favorite TV shows to this day is The Wire. And there was a character on the show, if you ever seen it, it was a young lady. She's a drug dealer. Her name was Snoop. And she was more manly and more gangster than some of the drug dealers on the show. I mean, like, she had her hair, like, you couldn't tell she wasn't a dude. Like, and she played it up. And so I was like, man, I'm the type of person that when I watch a TV show, like, I'm good for IMDb to find out, like, man, they really in this character. Like, let me find out what else they played in. When I looked her up, man, that's like, no, that's the first time she's been on TV. And that role is her. That's her. That's how she got on that show. They saw her acting like that. She was coming around and they were like, yeah, we need her on this show. And every time she came on screen, I was just like, cringe, man. I'm like, she more of a man. She might be more manly than some of these dudes out here. They was afraid of her. She was a killer. She was, she was all these things. And to me, it was just like, it was yuck. Every time she came on screen, I'd be just like, yuck. Because that portrayal, the baggy, so The Wire came out in the mid 2000s. That's when, it was popular to wear the baggy jeans and the white t-shirts. And she was like that in every scene. And I was just like, man, where are the curves at? Where is the, the nice hair and all of that? And, I'm into the, like Blanche said, we like feminine women. We want somebody that is, gonna be soft and, you know what I mean? Look.
Well, the Transformers are here to oblige you. That's what they're trying to give y'all, femininity with
Somebody,
a 5 o'clock show.
I don't know what show you're talking about. The Wire. When you said that, I thought about the Daily Wire. I was like,
no.
It's the
This was.
Katie, you need to bring some of
that's
your black
funny, Katie. You need to. What happened on the Daily Wire? Somebody got shot. Oh no.
This has not been Shapiro.
The Wire, The Wire was a documentary about Baltimore. So if you ever want to know what Baltimore is like, watch it. But
I never watched it, but I know what it was.
Yeah, it's hard, man. It's just, the delusion runs so crazy. And I want to go back to something. So. Blanche, how long you been in Atlanta?
20 years.
Okay, so you ever been to now maybe you haven't, but you ever been around when the Browner Convention was going on?
Oh yeah, that's a prime. All the listen, man. That's like you go fly fishing that day. You know what I'm saying? You catching that week, yeah.
That's the trans
Listen,
parade.
the Bronner Convention, it was just like this. They would ascend on the city of Atlanta every year for a weekend, and it was just like I never seen so many men dressed up as women, and just they were like the stars of the hairstyle. All the best hairstylists were men,
Oh, I didn't
and
know. Oh no, I only saw. Oh, whoa. I never actually went to the hair show. I just went to the clubs afterwards. So it was men
no,
dressed as women.
oh yeah, they were doing the fashion shows and all of that, man. It's just like it's they do a big hair show like that in Detroit too, every year. But man, I'm telling you, these men have always been the stars of the Bronner Brother hair
Mm-hmm.
convention
Wow, I didn't know
because
that.
they're the best hairstylists. These women want to go to all of them, all of these, these men that charge thousands of dollars to put, hair in and
Mm-hmm.
have they make the same makeup artists. They doing the same thing, hair and makeup and all of that, man. And it's just like you go downtown, you don't even have to go to the convention. Just go downtown, go to Atlantic Station, and walk around. You're going to see, oh man, some atrocities. As far as like the way people are walking
Well,
around looking, it's like, my God, today, help us, Lord.
so So apart from that is I will say this about men being in the beauty industry doing hair and makeup is that men are really better at pretty much everything. And so it makes a lot of sense. They pay a lot of attention to detail, which is why they make excellent painters, which is why they make excellent carpenters, which is why they can get things even. My husband being a barber, like I'm very much aware of like how meticulous a man can be and strive for that perfection. So outside of, I'm not championing going to champion men doing their own makeup and stuff like that. I mean, even though barbers do give themselves haircuts and stuff like that. Well, I'm not speaking to like the feminine aspect of it, but for me personally, I just want to say that it does make a lot of sense that men are very successful in that industry because they're meticulous and because they're just like, I'm gonna be honest, like just naturally great at a lot of things because they don't think the same as women do. They don't fill themselves up with doubt. They make a plan. They can be very precise and just like really get things done. And some of those things when it's like comes to color matching and stuff like that, they have an eye for it and they have had skills like that for all of time. So I do want to say that. So like not talking about them dressing up and putting on women face and so on and so forth, but I do think that there's a lot of men who actually don't participate in doing their own like hair and makeup like that. That's really successful in that industry as well. I know, we were making fun of them. I'm sorry, but I just kind of wanted to say that like that's something that I really appreciate about men. So my husband started off being a barber without ever cutting anyone's hair ever when he decided he wanted to be a barber, and I supported him through that. And just watching like his education for it and how serious he took it and how well he wanted to do and all of those things, like I'm not shocked that he's great at doing it. Like he really is an awesome barber in just a very short amount of time, does excellent work. But I think being able to see the behind the scenes of all the work that he put into it is very impressive to me. So bringing up that industry just kind of reminds me of like, I just think that men are really great at that. Sorry.
I just want to kind of throw out there too to the question Katie threw to you guys. I think one of the reasons that a lot of lesbians or bulldaggers or whatever you want to call them don't butch. I don't even know what the slings if it's offensive or not. I don't really care. I don't know if I should apologize to bulldaggers and butchers.
The term is lesbian.
Okay, overtly masculine lesbians. I'll just say it that way. Okay, the strap-on transformers. I just want to say that group. The reason why I think it's not that we accept them, or I don't even think feminists actually accept them necessarily over like gay men. I think what it is you don't really see them pushing into a lot of these what should I say, parts of culture and society that upset anything. You don't see like women trying to get into men's sports. I mean, obvious reasons, because we know it ain't gonna happen, right? They gonna get beat down. But I'm just saying, so you could tell that there's a push from somewhere to kind of get more eyes on men who want to kind of upset the apple cart as far as women are concerned. Because let's remember, we talked about intersectionality, just kind of get serious again for a minute. If you use men who are play acting and playing dress up, okay, they're doing cosplay as women, basically is what it is. Okay, that's what it is. It's cosplay, okay? And they're trying to be women. Well, if you have to now acknowledge them as true women, and they're actually beating real women up for calling them anything other than that, and you have to use their proper pronouns, and they get to use the women's bathroom, and they get to, replace real women in sports. This coincides and is part and parcel of also telling women they should abort their children. You see the grift? It's all connected, because women give life, right?
Yeah.
So you destroy the men by effeminizing them and making them not be masculine by calling masculinity toxic. Okay, so you've effeminized them. Now you have to also make sure the women don't want to give life by masculating them. You're really just swapping them out. And at the end of the day, what it does is help eugenics and population control. But it's sneakier, because when you had World War II and they were actually using pseudoscience to actually and creating like infertility in these people intentionally so they would not continue the human race, right? That was coming from an external place. This is giving you the weapon where you just die by 1,000 cuts yourself and you're the holder of the knife. And the way they position it to you is by making you think it's something that's necessary, it's something that's medical, and it's something that is socially needed, or you'll be destroyed or kill yourself. People play to that. They play to the emotions and weaknesses and vulnerabilities of people. So once you do that, now you have no more life coming. I find it interesting. The same people are always telling us we should kill our children, always trying to adopt them. I mean, come on.
They go to Mongolia to adopt them.
They're adopting them right here. Look at all the actresses. They got Haitian babies. I can't even adopt the child because I want to homeschool and I don't believe in vaccines. But these women adopting black babies and turning them out and making them girls. It's crazy. It's crazy. We finally got an African woman to adopt children, and she's white, and she can turn all of them gay. Charlize Theron. A real African. She is not for the black cause.
How has feminism hurt you guys?
I'll let Katie go because I talk a lot and I just don't want to take over. Go ahead, Katie.
Katie, how has feminism hurt you?
That's a really good question. I think that the ideology behind the feminist movement being that it was I was exposed to it so young, even though I didn't have somebody that was very influential in my life. I was, just like many people, surrounded by the propaganda. At one point in time, I thought it was okay to be pro-life. And so that's time that I missed out on for advocating for children and for the right to life of the unborn babies. And not that I ever advocated to be pro-choice. It was just a thought in my head, but that was a thought in my head that kept me away from advocating for the babies, which I think is really important. I think it kept me blinded to a lot of the value of life, just having that. On the episode I put out today, I shared something that I didn't think that I was really going to share publicly. And it was when God gave me a download of actual conception and life is a very beautiful thing. And you can hear it there. I won't go through it because I literally go into almost like a meditative state when I'm describing it, because it was just the most beautiful thing. And it really showed me a lot, even though at this point I was already pro-life and I'd had the talking points about it's not a clump of cells, it's not your body, and things like that. But I think that I missed out on a portion of my life where I could have been doing better things because I didn't think it was okay to stand up and be a woman of God. And I think that was just a lot of being around propaganda and not being very well guided early on in my life. So, I'm not mad about it now, but it's definitely something that I think about, that hopefully I can show my daughters that you don't have to waste time having a voice because you're confused and you can't be afraid to speak out for the truth.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting. It's interesting.
And I,
Go ahead, Blanche.
but I would say this: I think that feminism is enticing. I believe that most women in America are feminists, just based on it's in the movies, TV shows. I mean, feminism is everywhere, but it is enticing though for someone to tell you that you're special just because you're a woman. Like you almost, and then think about it, you're going to have a bad experience with a guy eventually. Like if you get your heart broken or a guy doesn't want to date you, or something like that. So it's almost like the perfect storm to say you're great because you're a woman and he's not great if he didn't pick you, or he's not great if he doesn't recognize your greatness. And so it is enticing. And I can see how a woman living in today, even if she felt insecure about herself and she watched the movie, that Captain Marvel movie with that, I don't know her name, the actress, but the movie was
Brie
horrible.
Larson.
Yeah, but she wasn't believable though.
No, she
But
wasn't.
just imagine someone looking like her. She wasn't really in shape. She just looked like a plain girl, but she's defeating aliens. So to me, it is enticing for a woman just to have all these insecurities. At the end of the day, somebody said, you know what, you're special despite all those things. You're great. And you're just as good as a man. So you see all these men doing all these strong things, building and all of this stuff. And then you look at yourself and you say, but I'm the same as him, or I'm even better. So it is enticing. So Katie, I get it.
Yeah.
I get how when you're young and impressionable, I get it.
Jambalaya, what did you say?
Repeat it to me again.
No, I'm just saying how his feminism hurt you. Same question.
Yeah, I don't know if it's hurt me so much as it's hurt. It's hurt. I don't know. It's weird, right? Because I'm 50. I don't feel like that's old, but I feel old because I feel like a lot of these generations have morphed into I don't know, into something infantilized. Like I don't know what happened in between when I was young and now, where people just older than me, I'm speaking of, and even some younger, there's like this inability to have conversations. So I think if anything, feminism has created this wide gap between those of us who have lived experience and want to kind of pour into young women, and also want to hear from older women. Like I feel like I'm in the middle of a weird space because younger women are so angry and bitter. You guys mind if I give like a quick story of this example? I was in a salon, and there's another stylist that works with my stylist. Her name also happens to be Ebony, and she actually was complaining about, this is when Judge Jackson, I think is her name, was getting like
Confirmed.
She was getting screened, right? And so we caught it in the shop right when she was talking about, I don't know how to define a woman.
Oh boy.
Okay, so we started talking about that, and then it kind of morphed into conversation about education. So she said that the government needs to do more to see to it that children have programs so that they stay out of trouble, because the crime rate here is so bad. And I said to her, well, if people would actually be involved in investing in their own children, they would stop looking to government incentives to do their own job. I said, because I homeschool my kids and the government hasn't done anything for me. I don't even do state school. And she said, well, Ebony, that's perfect for you, but everybody doesn't have your opportunities and your life situation, because she knows that I'm a stay-at-home mom. I said, hold up. I said, let me tell you how I became a stay-at-home mom. See, my husband, when we were dating, right? I had been married before. Okay. My first husband was unfaithful to me and didn't want to stay in the marriage. He wanted to continue. So I left him and divorced him. When I met this husband came at me with this island nonsense, talking about, yeah, see, in my country, we don't marry a woman. We keep the one woman as our main woman. And then we have like our little children. I said, hold up. You're not in your island, boo. You're in America. Okay. And what we're not going to do is shack up, not do it, because I had no children. So we're not shacking up. I'm going to be married and I'm going to have children. Now, if you're not the man for that, then you need to keep it stepping. And guess what? I earned his respect because he realized I was not one of these women out here that was just so desperate. I was willing to put up with anything. right? So I told her if a lot more women, because women obviously are the ones who decide what the relationship is going to be. They really do, right? A man could say whatever, but men will do what you allow them to do. And if you are sitting there talking about, no, there will not be any sex, a man will show you real quick what he's about. And that's good. What most women do out of their desperation is they give up the cookies. Okay. Angels, see, I'm using proper terms. I'm being good. They use they give it up thinking they're going to hold on to the man. Well, that's the furthest thing from the truth. They're not going to hold, because the man has already realized if you gave it up to me, you'll give it up to anybody. You're not self-respecting. He might stick around for a while, but he is not trying to wife you. And I'm not talking about the exceptions. So please, nobody give me a comment time. But we had sex on the first day we got married. That's the exception. That's not the rule. So I told her if most women would start acting like they had self-respect, they would then find out the kind of character the man has. And then that man that actually wanted to wife them would create an environment for them where they could do those things for their children. They don't need daddy government. That's what real dads are for. So feminism for me has created a problem where there cannot be conversation because people are so hostile to truth. You're hateful or you have a phobia if you just say the truth now.
Yeah.
And even older women, they don't do well with being told things by me because they look at me like a youngster and they're like, you don't know anything. You just coming on the block. But these like 70-year-old women are going to the club with their daughters and getting their hair did.
Foolishness.
And they don't have men either. Yeah, it's a really precarious situation. Really odd.
I knew it was a rap when I saw the grannies on stage twerking. You seen that? They were at the concert. I'm like, it's a rap. So they had a twerk contest, 70 and up. Like,
oh my God.
I'm like, y'all can still bend down like that? Goodness.
Right. They say in my day we called it the Watusi.
Not the Watusi. The juke joint. That's what they have.
Yeah. It's yeah. So I wanna share a story with y'all just since Jambalaya, you opened the door for that. When I was coming out of my 20s, coming into my 30s, I was, my 20s I spent in Atlanta for 10 years, and those are my wilding out years. I'll be honest, through college and that period, and so when I started coming into my 30s, I started looking at it like, all right, it's time to settle down. I'm tired of dating. I knew I wanted to be a father. I knew I wanted to be a husband, all of that stuff. And so when I got into my 30s, I was 28 years old when I moved from Atlanta to Charlotte. And, I met my wife. I moved here in May of 2007. I met my wife in January of 2008. And I didn't know she was going to be my wife at the time, obviously. But when we started dating, I wasn't taking her seriously, but, she was the only person that I was in a relationship with. But when I started getting serious about her, she had moved here from New York and she was here by herself. And one of the things that, when we started getting serious, like, I knew that it was important to me that her mom and dad were married, and they were. And she's the only child. And so her father was coming to visit. Her mom and dad came to visit. And she didn't know it at the time. But at that weekend, I was testing her. I said, I want to see how she acts around her dad. I want to know how does she treat her father? How does she respect him? Because I knew at 28, the way she treats him is the way she's going to treat me. And so that was a test for, I was looking to see, how she was going to do and how she treated him. And, my wife and her dad are like, they're buddies. They're like, that's my ace, my daddy's little girl. She's my ace. And so, she respected him. She respected that role in him because he was a strong father figure. He was a provider. He took care of the house. He took care of home. And so when I saw how she responded to him and how she respected him, I was comfortable enough to know that, okay, this is how she's going to respect me. And likewise, I'm almost certain she was looking at the dynamic of how I treated my mom, how I respected her, and how my mom and dad interacted together. And so when I came was coming to that, these are the things that I told the Lord I wanted in a relationship. And because I had been dating, I was willing to make concessions in dating because all the women that I was running into, they had children. And so I didn't want to be a stepfather, but in my mind, and it's no shade to stepfathers out there, and it wasn't a knock on single women, but it just was not what I was looking for. But at the same time, because that's all I was running into, I was saying, okay, well, you know what? I might have to make a concession, and I might end up having a date, and be in a relationship with a young lady that has a kid, just because these are the times that we're in. So when I found out, my wife didn't have any children, that was a plus. Then I found out, oh, my mom and dad had been married for 30 some years. That was another plus. So all of these things started falling in line. And I was looking at, the dynamic of the father-daughter relationship, between, my wife and her dad, my father-in-law. And to be honest, I know that my family structure is we I call us somewhat of an anomaly because I get along with my mother and father-in-law. Like I'm cool with them where it's like it's popular on TV and in social media and in culture to say, the father doesn't like the son-in-law or the mother and the son-in-law don't get along or son-in-law, the mother-in-law doesn't like the daughter and all that stuff. I don't know what that means because in my family, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
When Jesus came with that dividing sword to turn mother-in-law against daughter-in-law, he must have used the double-edged sword plus
Oh
triple.
man, yeah. Hey, that ain't my testimony. And
My bad,
I
my
know that
bad. Go
that's
ahead.
rare. No, I know that that's rare. Like to be honest, so I don't take that for granted. The fact that I can sit down in a room with my father-in-law and we can chop it up, and it's not this awkward
That's a
silence in
blessing.
between us. It's not this awkward silence between me and my mother-in-law, and vice versa for my wife and my mom and dad.
Mm-hmm.
When we go home to Detroit, my mom, it's like an annual thing. My mom and my wife, they can't wait to go on their shopping trips and just the two of them out, so on and so forth. So, those things, that family structure was important to me. It was crucial to me because I knew the goal that I had for my family in terms of what I was looking for, because these were the blueprints that was set in front of me. So when I had, met my wife and she had the same blueprint in front of her, it was easy for us to come together and literally just like, we were like Voltron, you know what I mean? We just came together and it was like, we gonna get it done. And so when I look at, women now who are single and are trying to date, the thing that's working against them is they don't have that blueprint or that father daughter dynamic. And most of them, they almost wear that as a badge, like it's a chip. Like, I didn't know my dad, so what? I got it out the mud without him. And this is what I am. I'm a doctor. I have my own business. I'm a business owner and I don't need a man, and so on and so forth. And look at my dog that I carry everywhere, so on and so forth. So,
Not the dog.
so, that's what they use for companionship. But, to me, I think that's part of the lie that women have been sold, that you can do this on your own and your life is going to be okay. And it's not. That's not how it should be. You know what I mean? It's not. That's not what should be presented to you. You should be in a position to where a man will come to you and say, hey man, I know how to treat you because I saw my pops do it. I know what it means to be, I know how to treat you because I saw my pops treat my mom a certain way, or my dad taught me, all these little lessons that my dad taught me about women specifically when I was a kid, just different things. Like when I was a kid, we went to the doctors, and I'm gonna wrap up with this. I had a doctor's appointment when I was a kid. I must have been like 9 or 10 years old. And we got to the waiting room and it was jam packed. And, me and my dad, we found a seat and we sat down, and then a lady came in with her little girl, and there was nowhere for them to sit in the waiting room. And my dad started nudging my leg, like, get up, get up. And we stood up and he said, ma'am, you can have our seats. And I was so confused. I didn't say anything. So we stood and they took our seats. So on the ride home, that was bothering me, the whole doctor's appointment. On the car ride home, I said, Dad, how come we gave up our seats and you gave them to that lady? We had to stand and I didn't want to stand. He was like, son, that's what you do. He's like, you always give up your seat to a lady when she comes in the room. He said, because you can handle standing up for a little while. He said, but you always want to take care of the women around you, even if you don't know them. And that was enough for me. I only had to hear it once. That was enough for me. I said, all right, that's the rule. Just like he said, you always walk on the outside of the sidewalk. You know, you always open doors. That was part of it. Those are the things that my dad taught me. And these women that, you know, are meeting, they're running into men that their father hasn't given them that game. And it's just ruining them. You know, they haven't seen their father do that stuff. So it's a part of the lie of feminism that helps them think that, you know, they can just get it on their own and they don't need to have any of that stuff. I know I just said a lot.
No, it was deep. Like I'm sitting here processing, like I don't even know if I should follow it up. I feel like a comedian that followed a great set. I just need to be quiet. You got it, Bernie. I can't come after you now. Blanche, can I share a stat and then throw a question out to y'all?
Okay.
All right. So the national health stats say that out of wedlock births rose from 11% to 41% between the year 1970 and the year 2009. So that's almost 40 years. Okay. So I want you guys to keep that figure in mind. The out of wedlock births rose from 11% to 41% within a 40-year period. Okay. Now, the societal effects, we got to go back to why that is. When you go to the 1960s, specifically 1963, there's a woman by the name of Betty Friedman. Okay, she's a writer and a feminist of the time. And she wrote in this book called The Feminist Mystique. She wrote that the post-World War II belief that women were destined to marry and bear children was a problem that had no name. Many readers, after reading Friedman, actually began to vocalize that they felt like sapped of their individualism. Okay, now that's in 1963. So you had married older women who actually found that their traditional roles as housewife and mother were unfulfilling. Now, did the book create the idea, or did the book just pick up that that was the feeling, and where did the feeling come from? So the question that I want to throw to you guys is, if, oh, and by the way, let me throw this out there. The reason blamed on the national health stats, somebody's got their mic open and it's echoing. But the stats actually show, or they argue, that this is based on socioeconomics, race, ethnicity, and education. These are the same arguments we hear now, right? Okay, so my question is being a woman, black or white, being poor, less educated, are any of those things a determining factor in choosing certain lifestyles that create less than desired outcomes? If I'm poor, uneducated, okay, black or white, because there is impoverished white just like there's impoverished black, do any of these things determine if I'm going to live a high risk lifestyle so that I end up having out of wedlock birth? That's my question.
I would say yes. Well, to go back to your first statement about did the book promote it, or was the book telling you what was going on with the women? I look at it like social media, right? Everybody started tripping when they started seeing everybody else's life. Before we had social media, people pretty much lived their own life and were pretty much content with their life. But once you start seeing everybody else is living, now these new ideas get introduced. And I feel like that's what feminism was doing. You were seeing, I think women were seeing women in these quote unquote empowered positions, you know, going against the system, bucking up against men, speaking their opinion, being on shows, having a voice, like basically women being put in high positions in the limelight. So it's kind of enticing. Again, you're at home and they're telling you that you're baking cookies and wiping up poop is insignificant. You could be out here changing the world. So I get it. It's enticing. So, but to me, I imagine that most of the women competed with each other on homemaking stuff, like being wives, you know, being mothers. Like they competed on that level. But then when television came and you had access to the world, I used to women wearing capes. So I think it was more of them showing women the possibility of being free, you know, from a man than it was women actually having these gripes. Because I believe that women were happy. Most of them were happy, I would assume, to be married and have a loving husband and children or whatever. Do I think being poor and educated affects your sexual habits? I'm gonna be real.
Don't do it, Blanche.
Go ahead.
Let me tell you something. Black folks, especially. I don't know about poor white people.
It's about to go.
But poor black people just make stuff up. So if I have sex on Tuesday, and when the sun is down, she won't get pregnant. Like black folks just make up. So I just see poor black people. They live a life heavily based on superstition, based
Black
on
people wives' tales.
wise tale, folklore. Like my mother,
man.
if there was a cricket in the house, don't kill it, don't kill it. She grab
Yeah.
it, take it out, and put it by a tree. Like that's how poor black folks live. Just it's all
You're right.
None of this. So of course, those type of people gonna have poor sexual habits because I had a dream about fish. Somebody gonna get
Oh my God.
all kind of stuff. So I do think when you are poor, what comes with being poor is a mentality. And to me, your outlook on life isn't one of strategy and planning and, dotting I's and crossing T's. It's pretty much you living day to day or you being conditioned to live with very little or making very little seem like a lot. So I would say that being poor and lack of education probably would affect your sexual habits. I think about where I grew up. We were flagrant, like it was just sex, like there was no kind of order. You learned sex from foolishness, like I remember my mother. I woke up one morning, I looked, and it was some condoms on like the little, like my little entertainment center. I'm like, what is this? I wasn't even having sex, but my mom was just like, no birds and bees conversation, no, just slap the condom.
Here you go.
That was it. So
Do what you got to do, son.
I just think that when you are poor and you lack education, you tend to lean more on stuff that's not really substantiated by anything.
So you're more talking about correlation, not causation.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have to agree with him because, poverty breeds an environment for that. And when you poor, on a Friday or Saturday night, you can't go out nowhere. All you can do is rub on them hot spots.
I hope you're talking about Wi-Fi. That's what I hope you're talking about.
That's all you can
This is
do.
a family show.
That's your entertainment. I mean, it's I'm gonna tell you one of my guilty pleasures, and I'll admit this is I like listening to Corey Holcomb. And if you know who Corey Holcomb is, he's a comedian and he's extremely vulgar. But he talks about how most of the women he dates he specifically targets, women who he claims are in poverty situations.
That is horrible. That is awful.
He says that because I know that they need this $80 that I got.
Oh my God.
Or this $40 that I can
He's
give them.
trash.
They need. Yeah, he is trash, but it's funny. it is funny, but I would agree with that. Like when you don't have a means to you don't have options or outlets at your disposal that can kind of give you education, to make you have the drive to rise above your current station in life. A lot of babies are born that way. A lot of babies are made that way. And, unfortunately, and Blanche is right, man. We, all of that old wives tales or, Negro rituals, don't do this and, so on and so forth. And these different things like we went to see Chris Rock and he talked about old stuff that Black people do. And for the first time, I never knew about checking behind the ears to see what the baby's color was going to be. And
oh my God. Oh.
Yeah, everybody was they thought it was the funniest thing. And I was lost. And my wife, she's like, you never heard that before? I said, no.
Yeah.
I was like, what does that mean? She said,
That
that's
must be a
how they
South
can
thing.
tell if your baby's going to be dark skinned or light skinned. And I said, what in the world? Like, what? What's happening? What are we doing?
Oh
So
Lord.
it's just,
Ugh.
it just goes to those things, So to answer your question, I co-sign what Blanche said. So yeah, I do think that, that
What say
poverty
you,
does breed
Katie?
that.
Hold on one second. Somebody said on here the New Year's ritual with the black eyed peas said degrees. And then she was like, but y'all still
What?
broke though. What
Yeah,
y'all like the rituals never worked. Like black
yeah.
eyed peas agrees and no new money came in.
No new money.
Oh, wait, what about the money spray with the Indian on it? Y'all
Oh,
remember that?
Yeah, yeah,
My mom used
yep,
to spray that. I was like, even as a kid, I was like, this is so dumb, and that spray stinks. I remember thinking it as a kid. I'm like, this is just dumb. We still broke. We still in an apartment. I still got to glue the sole of my shoes together, but you over here spraying Indian spray. Please get another job.
yeah. That's
What say you, Katie? Do you think that there's a causation or correlation with being poor or less educated um, as a factor for lifestyles that kind of lend itself to children being born out of wedlock?
Um, I mean, I would say that it's always possible that it could play a part in it, but I think mostly it's two things. It's propaganda and it's lifestyle, because there's plenty of poor people that are believers that don't wind up in those situations.
true.
And
Mm-hmm.
it's about having morality, and it's about having leadership. So you can have a father and a mother and still be poor, and you can
Mm-hmm.
have a father and a mother and have good leadership still. I don't think that just because you have a two-parent household doesn't mean you're successful. You could have a father that's wasn't as that maybe struggles to get an education, has a learning disability, that got into trouble early in life, that turned his life around, and because he's had a hard life and hopefully has become a believer or come to Christ or something like that, can turn it around. And so you can still have those struggles and those hardships and still be a good person. I think my issue growing up was I did have both of my parents up until my teenage years. And then my parents started having relationship issues that eventually led in a divorce. And I'm the last of four children. That was really hard for me to go through, but because they were so caught up in their own personal issues, that left a lot of me to figure out things on my own. I wasn't like really close with my brothers and my sister. Like you see me and my sister's relationship now, it wasn't like that when we were growing up, because her and my oldest brother are so much older than me. Or a couple of years older than me. And so, I mean, that makes a huge difference, the difference between 10 and 20. That doesn't mean that you're under really the same roof. You're already starting your own life at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And really led to a lot of me just figuring out things on my own. Like I was on my own, like right at the time that I turned like 17, living with a boyfriend and trying to have like my own life, and starting all this out. But because of me struggling the years before that, is I didn't have the steps that propel me into adulthood. I didn't even really date like a lot of people dated, these younger years and going into college. I didn't do that. I had several, I just had a few like very serious relationships, because I'm like kind of like that committed, loyal type person. Like I didn't want to run around with people. And because I was so independent and focused on growing my life, even though I was still making mistakes, like I just never really allowed in my life to be mistreated or handled, foolishly. But all you can do is correct the course. But enough about me, just more so I think that it just really leads to what you surround yourself with. I think about all the children that maybe went from foster home to foster home, that get mistreated or feel abandoned by their parents and things like that, that still turn out to be like really awesome, wonderful people. And it might not happen to a lot of people. Like we look at a lot of these people that believe in the feminist movement at 17, 18 through 25 years old. I think that there's still hope for them. I think that there's still an opportunity for them to receive the message and correct the course. So I never want to come off sounding like too harsh on really young people. Now the older people, you ain't got no excuse. Like you need to figure it out and get it together. But maybe that's what you wholeheartedly believe. But I do believe that learning the truth and understanding what God has provided for you and how awesome life is, you can really start to see the deception in a lot of these things and correct the course. And that is my hope for everyone, is that you can experience this joy in life too.
Amen.
Serious tonight.
Mhm.
You guys are so used to me trolling the comments, and now I'm all like,
Now you're like
now you got a
pontificating.
heart. Now you all sympathetic and you so caring and understanding. I don't want to get on the younger people. They need a chance to.
well, because I mean, really, even though I get riled up, I get passionate about a lot of things. I'm really like, if you look back at a lot of things that I've said, I really don't blame. I don't place blame on people like that because I think that that's maybe part of the problem too. I brought this up a couple times, especially recently, is I think the big reason why people take such a long time or might possibly, yes, my kid in the background, I see you. Uh-huh.
Hey, Caitlin.
Okay. I'll be right with you on. So, um, I think what takes such a long time or might even make people resistant to come to know God is because of that father figure example we were talking about they don't understand that God is so awesome because when we refer to them as a father, they think about how their father has failed them. And
Mhm.
we've all experienced some type of disappointment from our own real world father. And having to come to him and saying that I made a mistake is a really difficult thing to do. It takes a level of maturity and a level of like knowingness that you really I think that if you don't know God's all the wonderful things that God has promised you, that's going to make you more resistant to come to Him and ask for forgiveness. A lot of people just see it as being disappointing to God. You hear a lot of depressed people say things like that, like God doesn't love me, or I've messed up too much. Like, what is the point, and things like that. And that's really difficult to hear. And I think maybe my attitude towards it is definitely mellowing out a little bit more to know that we need to be gentle and kind to people because
Mhm.
I've seen people behind the scenes of like what it is they're doing and saying on social media. And then when you know somebody really personally, you wouldn't want someone talking to your friend that way if they're having a hard time or whatever. You don't want people being ugly. Like Blanche, you come to my rescue all the time in the comments. Like if somebody is like being stupid and saying things, and it's because they don't know me. You can't just go off of
Mhm.
these little snippets. And so I think the more we're pushed and propelled into this social media world where we're judged just by one snippet of a thought of a piece of who we actually are, I think that's pushing me to try to just be a little bit more considerate of the people that seem like they're lashing out or people that really seem like they're stupid. Don't be dumb.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, I just want to add that I think a lot of things. I think that it is important. I mean, and Katie often, shares this with me, and I'm very glad because I'm kind of a hardliner, probably because of things I've seen and experienced, and I just don't want young people to waste time because if I could go back and get, man, from age 19 upwards, there was so many things that I would do differently, and wasting
Mhm.
time on things that have no benefit to my life or anybody else's life, and maybe even hurt other people in their life, has really, really been something that causes me to reflect on choices I make now. Having said that, I think, it's kind of like the Bible says, you have to kind of preach as though snatching them from the fire. Your intent needs to be restorative, but it also needs to be honest. And sometimes, the best honesty is fire, because fire doesn't always consume. Sometimes it purifies. You got to burn the dross off of some nonsense. And that's painful, right? People don't like to hear how you are living is so contrary to the will of God. I'm sorry that you think that's unloving, right? It's love in action. If there's a girl and she's pregnant out of wedlock and she's terrified out of her mind, which I've had that happen when I work with the youth, I am not driving her to get an abortion. I'm not giving her money for an abortion.
Mhm.
You know what I will do? When she has the baby, or even before, if she needs somebody to go to the doctor, I'll bring her to her appointments, right? If she needs money for food, I'll help her that way. I'll give her my child's crib, which I have done, and clothes and things like that. But I'm not taking you to do something that's going to destroy you. So love and action doesn't always look the way people expect it. It's the same thing with talking about feminism. It is painful for some women to hear that they are literally the reason why they are where they are. It's painful to hear that. They don't want to accept that them sleeping around with a bunch of men and having a high body count. No, it is not acceptable, sis. It's not. I don't care what the culture tells you, it's not acceptable. Now, have you made mistakes and you can come back from it? Yes, I'm a testimony to that. You can. But why live a certain way hoping that that happens? Make better decisions now. Can you come back from having had a child out of wedlock? Yes, you can. But don't continue to do the thing, or as Kevin said, get your hot spots rubbed. Don't do that, and then think that is not going to continue to produce the same thing. So you have multiple children by multiple fathers. If you already see you had to take a L the first time, why would you keep repeating the same conduct? So I that's what I want these women to get. Stop making the same poor choices, wondering why you're in the same mess, and then you want everybody to feel sorry for you or help you. Like you're not, to me, you're not a victim of other people, you're a victim of yourself. It's self-victimization. And there's got to be some point in your life when you go, okay, I'm 25, I've got a child by JJ, Ray Ray, and Boo Boo, and half of them, I got one dude that's probably taking care of the children. I expect him to pay for all the children, right? I'm on Section 8. I can't work a job outside of Wendy's. My reading is not proficient. And I'm expecting some guy to come sweep me off my feet when I'm 30 pounds overweight and I wear a wig and a lace front. Like you are not, you ain't selling nothing nobody wants. And then you getting mad. That's why I used to love Kevin Samuels, because he would just put them in their place.
If she works at Wendy's, she's selling burgers.
No, but no, you got to put it all together, Katie. She has to work at Wendy's and have a lace front and be 30 pounds, all them together, and 30 pounds. That's not them exclusively. It's the whole, it's the 30 pounds, the lace front, and the Wendy's. That's what it is. Pick one of them. Stop doing all of them at the same time.
I told a young.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Blanche.
No, what I was going to say, and I'm going to let you go. I was going to say, everything that you all are saying is what feminism targets. So it targets. So if a woman has multiple baby fathers, she's empowered because she's a single mom doing it on her own. Like all the bad choices that women make, feminism comes in and says it's a badge of honor to do it. So the body count, you just desired by a bunch of, like, you can do what you want to do. You're liberated sexually. So to me, again, this goes back to the attack on the family and marriage, because again, this gives women boundaries. It gives women purpose. You can't push the propaganda on a woman that's going to submit to her husband who submits to God. Like you can't push any propaganda on her. So what I'm hearing is feminism, all these chinks in the armor, is what they actually glorify. So for Amber Rose to have a slut walk, think about that. Amber Rose had a slut walk. We're talking about 20,000 women. Like, we're sluts screaming out.
Yeah.
Sluts. I'm just like, this is insane. But guess what? I listened to Amber Rose talk one time, and the one guy she really respected was Wiz Khalifa. And I remember she was talking about how they broke up, and she started crying. And she said, he just didn't want me anymore. And the way I saw her break down, I knew that all that stuff was a facade. It ain't real. Like, she really doesn't feel that way. Like, I think all that stuff is resentment towards you wanting to have the quote unquote, I guess, the guy you felt was the good guy, or the guy that was your, I guess, Prince Charming. When he doesn't want you anymore, now you go on a warpath. Now you say, you know what, I'm gonna make all these men suffer. I'm gonna turn all these women into sluts. It's kind of like a revenge tactic. But I just saw her break down in that moment. I saw her vulnerability, and I just realized that all these women out here doing this stuff, at the core of it, they wanted a man.
Mm-hmm.
The man was, but they wanted a man to actually just love them unconditionally. I'm not talking about even in a romantic way, just to even just love them in just a pure sense of, I care about your well-being. Even Eartha Kitt was on the show. She started crying. She said, all the men that wanted to sleep with me, they didn't love me. She said, all the men that didn't want to sleep with me, she said, they loved me. She said, I realize that now. So to me, all these women naturally, like spiritually, innately gravitate towards a man. Like, it's just even for a man to a woman, like, this is naturally in us from God. But I just think that feminism highlights the chinks in the armor.
Well, I want to say this too, is that the attitude covers up the insecurities. 100%.
Oh
I
Yeah.
yeah,
feel like the
that's so
very
true.
bad attitude, the bitterness, the saltiness, the hater mentality that everybody's doing something and it's not good enough. It's not good enough for them, and da da da. Really, what you're saying is like you're not good enough. And it's
Yeah.
covering up a lot of your own insecurity. It's like, Abby, when you said, like, you know how when women talk and da da da, Abby, don't play us like that. We don't even really have those conversations.
Stop.
But I know what you mean. I know what you mean. But like, I'm really not onto hating on people for everything else that they have going on the outside. I'm not the judge of the beauty contest. I think that people could use a lot more humble pie for pointing out things on the exterior. What matters to me is like how you are on the inside. How do you feel about yourself? That's the thing, is that nobody asks these very simple questions. It's like, are you happy? How do you feel about yourself? Like, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? Like, and get into these people's minds. It's a lot of like outwardly projection, and like I said, just a lot of bad attitude, because they feel like they're not getting what they want. But what they don't realize is that attitude is the actual repellent for everything good in your life.
Yeah, and I don't think there's anything wrong with trashing people who put themselves in a position to be trash. I don't want to trash any woman for how she looks aesthetically or any of that, but I do feel like it's necessary to confront women who are out here, in the interwebs and sitting here talking about, you know, men want all these fake women, but I'm a real woman, and why don't they want me? And they're complaining, and then you find out they have 5 kids. They don't, they don't take care of it, right? So it's like you want men to kind of take something that you yourself are struggling to even deal with, right? And you're throwing your children in 5 different places because you want to go to the club to find a man. I mean, look, my mom lived this life, and I've seen the women in my family, so I'm speaking from experience. I mean, all of them had gained a bunch of weight except for my mom. All of them were like, I promise you, I kid you not. I was 11 years old sitting on my grandmother's couch. She and my aunt were like bookends, 250-pound bookends on the side of me, eating M&Ms, drinking Slim Fast. And I looked at this contradiction like, I don't get it. I don't, as a kid, and I couldn't say anything because I got popped. But I remember looking at it like, this is ridiculous. Okay.
Like,
Yeah, I mean, and this is okay. So this is way back, right? But that's the mentality of a lot of women. I don't like where I am. But like you said, Katie, the attitude is a defense mechanism. But they expect, I mean, they got whole women on TikTok, overweight, don't look like they comb their hair, cheese it crumbs on the side of their lips, talking about, I don't know why I can't find a man. Like, stop. Or they look like they got somebody else's face on, and you don't know what they really look like because they really have transformed. And when they pull it off, right, and put that lace front back, it's like, I'm gonna get you, sucker, and they want to hop after you with that one leg. And you're supposed to just be like, I guess I have to like you, because if not, I'm anti-woman. So I think women need to stop lying to themselves and thinking that people don't have the right to, one, have their own, what's the word? The things that they like. I can't think of the term I want to use, right? But they have their preferences. But at the same time, you're not offering anything that anybody would want. I mean, we need more Kevin Samuels. Like, I'm a woman who loved him. I don't like Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate to me he's a hyper male because he's trying to fit that niche, right? Because they've determined that masculinity is bad. So he's like the extreme end of the line, right? So I don't really, there are some true things that he says, but I think he's a cartoon caricature of what masculinity is for me, right? But I think Kevin Samuels was more on point because he would literally just have women. It's like they called in to get told off. It's like they like the pain, because I think women really want to hear the truth so they can get mad, but they know it's true. They can't ever unhear it. So I think more women, we need to stop lying to women, because men don't tell women like you're gorgeous when they're not. They don't do that. They don't tell them you look like Cardi B or Nicki Minaj, which, I mean, that's not even a anyway, that's not even a goal, but in the culture, right? And they're like, I think I look like Rihanna. It's, what? You
let me go
don't
back.
think. Stop thinking.
I want to go back to something that you said, Jambalaya, and then when you started talking, Blanche, you went exactly to where I was going, in terms of where it's a badge of honor for these women to, have multiple fathers. And immediately I started thinking about that clip that was floating around social media of that girl who was talking about how she has 6 baby daddies.
Hmm.
And she was talking about, why do I have 6 baby daddies? Because this is what I get in child support every month from
Oh
each of them.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. And so she ended her message by looking at the women in the camera saying, now why don't you have 6 baby daddies like me? And you
Wait.
know, no, she was breaking down the percentage that the court ordered that they had to pay, and that was her justification to say, like, I get this much income per month from 6 of these men, so why aren't you like me and have six kids that you can get 6 incomes, from these men? And all of it comes back to these women. Their man picker is broken, and they don't know how to, they just, it's just not there for them, and so they choose poorly, and they choose poorly again, and they choose poorly another time, and it becomes a cycle to where they're used to choosing poorly, and so that's just, they're conditioned to believe that that's their lot in life, so they don't strive to try to come out of it. They don't want any accountability because it's worked for them in their mind for so long. When you try to correct them or bring correction and tell them, then you in their business and you can't judge them, and you can't, only God can judge me, and they throw that out. All of that foolishness. It's a mentality. And again, like, because we're talking about feminism, this is a part of that lie that feminism has sold to women, that you are the captain of your destiny, in terms of this, and you control it. You control what happens. And because they think they can control it, they're not going to submit to anybody else. It's not going to happen.
I don't know how submission happens though without the head, because I mean, the Bible makes very clear there's an order, and you can't be a leader of something. I mean, Christ made that very, very succinct in Scripture, that he didn't come to be served, but to serve. So here you have the creator of all things serving, right? The community, serving his disciples, right? And so unfortunately, there's an expectation of men to be a certain thing when they've not yet yielded themselves. And we do have this kind of like false masculinity that, you have to have a motorbike, a cigar, and a pit bull. That's become the cultural references for this male type, right? But Christ was the most masculine man I've ever read about, and nobody could top him. And yet he has the ability to be fire in his eyes, don't play with him, but yet tender enough where widow and orphans, came up to him and children sat in his lap. And I think the only way you have that is through submitting to the higher authority. And that's what he did. He constantly yielded. If men were to do that, even without having a father, even without seeing demonstrated, yes, it might be a hard, long walk, but if you're yielding to the Messiah, right, then you begin to exemplify his characteristics. You can't help but do that. How can I prove that? Well, they're yielding to other things and they're exemplifying those characteristics, which are toxic, right? So imagine if they just swing the pendulum the other way and say, okay, this is not conducive to a society that is bent on actually raising children that create another society that's bent on loving God. Generationally, we're actually just given an L, right, to all these people that are being raised up so they can create the same monstrosity we already have. That's because those men continue to think that the way they should look for a father is in men pretending to be men on TV instead of just yielding to God. There is no greater example than God. There never will be.
These men, you mentioned the six baby fathers, Kevin, and I'm gonna say this, and I'm on the other side of this thing now. I was on the side of decadence. Now I'm on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
Amen.
The biggest problem I see is that men are the ones that set the standard. But what's happened is men are allowing women to do it.
Yep.
So if a woman has 3 baby fathers, you can't be the 4th.
No.
So what I'm saying is this, that men are so hard up for vagina and so hard up for looking like they're getting a whole bunch of women to where they've literally given over their birthright. So what we see today is women can get on. Think about Instagram. Women are only doing all this stuff because men are flooding their DMs, offering them money, offering them trips. And again, because men set the standards. If men said, no, we want ladies, then the women are going to have to change because the market says this market dictates it's for ladies. But
That's
what's
right.
happening is that these men, and I'm guilty of it, is that you almost get in this thing where your validation becomes with how many women you can sleep with. Now, guess what? Nobody actually taught me that. But the problem is nobody taught me the other thing either.
Right.
So I saw men in my family do these types of behaviors, and I just thought it was just the normal thing to do. Nobody ever said do it. I just saw it as something normal. So when I got out into adulthood and got out here, sleeping with these women, you start feeling like, okay, this is what makes me a man, that I can have quote unquote this control over these women, whether it's sexually, whether it's through money, whether it's through whatever, I have control over these women. But again, that's the problem. Because the problem is that now I'm leaving a body count, so to speak. Now I'm damaging this woman, abortion over here, this woman damaged, abortion over here. This I'm leaving a trail of destruction. Now I done affected 50 women's lives. Now those 50 women, could they recover? I don't know. Were they scarred from it? I don't know. I would assume so. They probably were. But my point is, the men have to set the standard. So this whole red pill movement with these men talking, I'm like, y'all can't have a red pill. Y'all can't counter feminism by getting on platforms and saying we have the right to sleep with a whole bunch of women because we're
That's right.
men or we providers. You can't. That's not the counter to feminism is righteous men that want to be married and have families. That's the counter to
Absolutely.
feminism. It ain't
That
men going around
Yes.
saying I deserve to be able to sleep with all these women because that's the nature of a man. And back in the time, no, forget all that stuff.
Mhm.
That's where we're here today because of that. Because men didn't want to be men. So for years, men were think about the music. Oh, I don't want to be a player no more. Why not? You was a player all them other years. All these songs, big pun. I'm a player, and all this stuff because we got into this, wanted to sleep with all these women, and now look at it. Now you got women. Feminism took off. The trans then took off, and people can say it's women. I don't say it's women. I say it's the men because a man had to sign off on all this stuff, whether it be the trans
That's right,
movement.
Blanche.
Huh?
Blame the men.
What'd you say?
I said blame the men. Bingo.
I am,
Blame the
but I
men.
am blaming the man though because the man had to sign off. Y'all know that a man had to okay all these movements. A man
That's
had to
right.
okay all this stuff. So a man, someone on the line said, "I'm going to allow this to happen." Even with Kanye, Kanye talking about all this stuff. I'm like, but you married Kim Kardashian. You don't have
yeah,
no credibility. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
Thank
You
you.
talking about
exactly.
Exactly.
your daughter. No, you married Kim Kardashian. You don't have
That's right.
no and before that you was with Amber Rose. You have no leg to stand on. So
No,
again, my point is the men got to set the standards. So all these baby mamas was made baby mamas. It was some guys out there that was saying, I'm gonna shoot the club up and I'm gonna keep moving. So I'm not giving the men a pass on this because I know the trail of destruction that's left behind men not being accountable.
I'm really glad that you brought that up because through all of these conversations, that's one thing that I keep, saying. I'm like, it needs to be led by strong men to say like enough is enough. Like that's who's really going to be able to change the culture of it all, and change the way that our world looks. Is that it takes men to do it, just like it takes men to file complaints of treason, just like it takes men to be able to go to war and change, just the trajectory of Earth for X amount of years. All of these things, and that just points back to like what I'm saying. Like men are really just naturally great at a lot of things, and their brains are created very wonderfully. And I don't think that there's enough women giving credit in that direction to say that like men are powerful, men are smart, and men can figure this out. Like we don't need to do it. And more than anything, it makes me upset when I look at like the feminist movement is that you literally have women leading the charge and combating the feminist movement against other women that are for the feminist movement that was created by men. And then, we're having all these other subgroups and make believe people, kind of thrown into the mix. But I mean, like, that's part of the plan. I mean, that's like an art of war right there, is to just keep throwing more chaos and confusion at us to where we can't figure out where to go. But I mean, ultimately, they do want your children. And so that's what's like sparked a lot of moms to kind of rise up. But like the mom should not be on the front lines of this. It should be the men, and then the women supporting that, and then the children, and so on. Like, it's, again, it just goes back to like the natural order of things. And the more things we do in the natural order, the more results we'll have. But I just don't completely agree with women leading the charge in this. So I'm really glad that you brought that up.
Absolutely. That reminds me of when Katie and I did our podcast and we were discussing, the garden, because that's where it all starts, to your point, Blanche, and, I've always heard it kind of taught that, Eve was the one that was deceived and it's her fault and she got us in this mess. And what they fail to realize is if you read the text carefully, it makes very clear that Eve was taken out of man and then presented back to man. That means that she was his responsibility. So he taught her the word, and we know he taught her the word because she reiterates it to Hasatan, right? What she does is, it says that because of the lust of her eyes, she saw the fruit was good to eat. So she allowed her desire, right, to cause her to give in to the deception. It wasn't a deception like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. Oops, I fell and ate the fruit. It's a willful deception. However, it says that Adam was not deceived because he chose to submit to the wife and her leading him down sin. Now, there's a passage of scripture that makes very clear, and it's in the Old Testament, that if a father or a husband hears their wife or daughter make a vow, they actually have the authority to break that vow. All they have to do is hear it and go, nope, she's not doing that. And that vow is nullified because of his authority. Okay. So when she came to him and said, here, honey, eat this, he should have slapped it out of her hand and said, baby, that's one thing we're not doing. Didn't I tell you not to eat that? We're not doing that. And then he could have presented her to God and they would have been forgiven. So the fact that he willfully chose to submit God-given authority to his wife, who was supposed to just co-lead and rule with him, right, gave Satan the authority over the both of them because he completely upset the order of the garden. That's why they couldn't. Now, what do you see happening now? The exact same thing.
Mm-hmm.
The exact same thing. It's packaged differently, right? And we see it on social media. So it's because of technology, it's coming at us a lot faster. But it's no different than the garden story.
Let's stay there. Let's stay in the garden for just a second, okay? Since you brought that
Okay.
up, so you so when you look at the dynamic of what, how that all went down between Eve and Satan and Adam and all of that stuff, what you pointed out is what we all know. Like, the mandate was given to Adam not to eat the fruit. So Eve could have ate it every day if she wanted. The fall didn't happen until he ate because the charge was to him. But he was also charged with making sure she knew not to do it because she needed to submit to him. But the other side of that was she had the serpent, Satan, talking to her. And what did he do? He convinced her that what she had wasn't enough.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the dynamic that, most of these women are seeing. Like, they have all this good stuff in front of them. But if you think about, Eve, and see, when I read the Bible a lot, I use my Holy Ghost imagination to kind of connect a lot of the dots. And if you think about, Adam and Eve, they were probably some of the most attractive people that you could probably think of. Eve had the best man. She had the best house, which was the Garden of Eden. He had the best job. He had naming power. He was naming everybody. He was it. He was the apex predator. He was the alpha male. He was the prototype. And Satan allowed her to be convinced that all of that she had in Adam, all of that she had in the garden, it wasn't enough, that she needed more. And so when she was able to have, her mind broken to that way where she decided, what, I do want more than this. I do deserve more than what I have right now. You're right. I should be able to have this stuff if I want it, and so she, and she could have been eating the fruit for I don't know how long. And I even say, like, she may have worn Adam down. She may have went to him the first time and he said, no, we're not supposed to be eating that. I don't know why you're eating that. No, I don't need it. And then, he comes back again. Just try it. Just go ahead and try it. You know how y'all women do. You wear us down. And
She probably had that lace front on too.
Hey, listen.
She was looking real tight that day.
She had
That
it.
Pier Yaki, from
exactly. So she wore him down, and he finally was like, all right, I'll have it. I'll have some of it, and as soon as he ate it, immediately God was like, "Where are you?" And he wasn't asking in a sense of, "I don't know where you are." He was almost asking like, "Where's your hand at? Like, why are you? I mean, come on, man." And so you have now these women who are now that, you know, feminism did exactly to Eve, what Satan did to Eve in the garden. What feminism have done to women now, it's convinced a lot of them that what they have or the potential for what they can have is not enough, and they can have better and they can have more. There's more out there for them, but it's up to me to go out and get it because nobody's gonna give it to me. I got to do it for myself, you know, so on and so forth. I don't need anybody to help me, you know. So you know, that's just that. Anybody that's going to get in my way, you know, you can't tell me, and so on and so forth. And that's the lie that women have been told, where if they understand that the good dynamic between that husband, wife, male, female relationship, male and female relationships, they're what's called they're upswinging relationships, where the man is supposed to help the woman come up, you know, to where he's building her up while she's helping him build up the house and take care of home, and, you know, be his comfort and be his helpmeet, be his peace, be all of these things to him when he's, you know, when you know, in his times of trouble and all of that stuff. And, you know, she's supposed to be all these things to him. But if she doesn't, you know, see that dynamic within herself because she hasn't seen it, or she feels like there can be better. And Blanche, you brought up social media and how, you know, we started living life off of social media and what we see. It was a study I listened to. I listened to a podcast several years ago. I don't know if you ever heard of Freakonomics podcast or whatever, but they had this lady years ago, and she was a marriage and relationship counselor. And she said at that time, she said 60% of the couples, the married couples that I counsel that are going through divorce, they're doing it simply because they think that they could be happier in another situation, because it's not that they're unhappy in their marriage. They just think they could be happier. And the root of all of that, she said, the root of these conversations, when she starts digging into why they think they could be happier, is because these people are spending X amount of time on Facebook, and they're looking at what their friends are doing. They're looking at what other people are doing, and they think, wow, these people look happy, so I think maybe I can be happier. You know, my marriage is not bad. You know, my husband's a great guy. He takes care of home, and I feel like I know he loves me, but I just think I could be happier, so I want a divorce. And then they go out into the cold and see what's out there, and they realize that that grass wasn't greener on the other side. You know what I mean? So social media plays a lot in building up these women to think that they can accomplish all of these things without men, or, you know, because they know that somebody's out there, somebody's gonna like me, you know, or somebody will do it, somebody will fly me to Dubai, and I can get, you know, I don't know if y'all know what goes on in Dubai, but, you know, these contracts that these women have to sign when they go
Yeah.
out there. But you
What?
know, you don't know about that?
Mm-mm.
Yeah,
It's,
okay.
it's the we can do a whole show on that.
Yeah, we could
Oh
do
Lord. Well,
It's bad.
can I put a thought to you
yeah,
guys?
that's a that's a whole nother
It's
rabbit
bad.
hole.
Kev was saying something, and it just kind of, that's why I love when men are in the space, because when you guys speak, it's like there's an authority that God gives you guys, and it literally just sets my mind on fire. The whole time you were talking, the first thing I thought about was, man, you know what? When you talked about Eve, you know, thinking she could have something better beyond what, you know, God and Adam had to offer. You know what I thought about? Well, since she undermined God's authority and Adam's authority, Satan stepped in. You could almost make the correlation to the same thing we have right now, only now the government, right, is that
Mm-hmm.
father.
Yep.
The government is that
Yep.
government is that daddy, right? And he promises, government Satan Papa, right, promises to give you everything that you need, right? But never tell you what you're gonna have to give up in order for him to supply everything that you need. You never ever are told what the contract is
Mm-hmm.
and the fine print about what it's gonna cost you. So when you were talking, I was just thinking about that. Like, yeah, if something is removed, something else has to take its place. That's why it's called anti-Christ, because it's not just against,
Yep.
it's in place of.
Yeah.
Which is why we need to be anti-feminist and anti-communist.
Yes,
Right.
Bingo.
absolutely. Yeah, they're almost, you say that, you made me think, man, aren't they the same thing though? Isn't
What?
feminism a type of communism?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah. They all actually
Yeah.
the same thing. Um, Yeah, it's just I feel like social media is almost like the serpent offering the fruit every day. You know,
Yep.
it's like hyper now. It's like you cut on social media and the devil's waiting there with the fruit. Like you
Hmm.
seeing girls with the BBLs or like girls in the like you're seeing every day, all day, and it's like like I said, it's enticing. It's enticing to go to somebody's page, and because she looks this way, she has 100,000 likes, and you
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
know what I'm saying. It's just like I don't know. It's just crazy. And what's crazy is the majority of the comments for the women are women. Like you go through the comments, it's majority women praising
Yes.
these women showing their body. Like you rarely see men on. I mean, men might just peruse through and just leave a little comment, but it's mostly women saying, "You look fabulous. I'm trying to look like that girl." Like, so to me, it's just like Eve all over again. And but again, it's the men too, though. What are the men doing? Like,
Entertaining it.
right, entertaining them. So it's the
Yep.
same thing.
My husband says the same thing. I mean, look, because I mean, I always tell him, look, women see the women you're gonna look at before you even look, right? Like we wives know. I know my husband's type. I'm not even really my husband's type, which that's how I know it's a God thing. He's dark skinned. He used to love dark skinned women, and I was like, well, how did you end up being attracted to me? Because he saw me before I saw him, and he said, well, sometimes you're stupid and you think you know what's best for you, but God knows what's best for you. You know, you pick all these like external things and you limit yourself not knowing what God has for you. And we'll go out somewhere, you know, to the mall or something. And I feel so bad for him because, you know, like you said, you got these BBLs. Some of these BBLs need to take a L because I mean, they look like fix a flat. I don't
Trash.
even understand. Yeah. But he like literally is just walking and these women with their stomach out and their breast out and booty shorts and you know and he's like looking away and he's like God I hate being in here you like he's just struggling and
Nothing
I'm
left to
like
the imagination.
no and he's like he doesn't know where to put his eyes because he's not staring at them but they're coming across us and I'm like boo it's okay I know who you're going home with I understand it's a struggle I feel bad for him I do like every commercial every you don't even have to go into anybody's IG. It's literally just on TV all the time. It's on billboards. It's everywhere. Right? He was trying to watch something with track and field, and for some reason, these women now I don't know if you guys have seen it. Remember the Jackie Joyner Kersey outfits? Yeah, they're not
Yeah,
wearing that no more. They got body riders, booty shorts. I mean,
yeah.
like up the crotch booty shorts, and they know what they're doing because when they bend down to go run, please don't lie to yourself and act like you know what that girl can sprint. She good. You know, yeah, that might be later.
Well, at least they're bringing more funding to women's sports.
Uh,
Well, they gonna
well,
start
are
having
they
the egg.
women, Katie?
Yeah, they're gonna start having the eggplant showing pretty soon in the race. So
Oh no.
y'all, because the outfit's gonna be the same, so it's gonna be a dude.
Oh God.
You know, I don't know if
It's
you
Uh,
gonna
can,
be
I
them
don't know if you
tuck
can tuck
shorts you
in,
can get from
if you can
Target.
tuck and run.
Well, I wanna kind of go to that point too. Is that when we talk about propaganda and how we see these, quote unquote strong independent women, and they're doing all of these things. I also think that like we're bombarded by sexual content, and that's via social media, via TV, and I just don't think that there's enough awareness on how that's harmful for your brain, how it affects like your dopamine and all of those things, and creates addiction, and it like really will corrupt young men, even older men too. And now we have an entire generation that because of their easy access to porn being free and things like that, that this has really helped propel this kind of behavior. And then even the girls doing things on social media, whether it's like what's that one trend of like the girl wiping the mirror and the booty shorts and stuff like that. It's like now that's a
oh,
trend. So you're going to have people mimicking it because you need the likes. The likes have replaced um hugs, and the comments have replaced conversations. Like you need that to feel validated. But if you get somebody like poor Jambi, like I know I don't have a high following count, but my friend Jambi is a little bit she's she's like in slow mo, but that's what happens when you speak the truth. Now if you get on there and you do something that's like definitely exposing yourself, that's where all these likes and comments go from. So I would just say this to the people that that disagree with that and like to hear the truth, is to protect what you're seeing. So when you have these things popping up in your For You and your Explore and stuff like that, say that you're not interested in it. You know, just put like not interested, and some of them like Facebook even has that, like it's triggering, like as much as we hate to like use that, but you really can say like this triggers me, and they will show you less and less of that content. And what that does is that takes away their views, it takes away their likes, and then like because the algorithm is such a crazy thing, like if you watch something for I think it's like 2.5 seconds, the algorithm knows that you like it, and they'll show you more and more and more of it, and you'll just be bombarded with it. And then now that you have the front facing camera on your phone, like a lot of these apps even track your eye movement. It's really wild, all the science that went behind, and all the information that we've given them is helping them program us. So if you don't want to walk away from social media, I mean, there's just so many different things you can do, like hiding it, or all the people that you really do enjoy following, just turn your notifications on for them. So when you go in, you see like where your likes would be, notifications, so and so posted or did this or did that. So you can go straight to that and like and consume that comment instead of just aimlessly scrolling. We have to be a little bit more protective of our minds and definitely more protective of our time, so we're not contributing to this crap.
It's a lot. It's a lot
And
out there. I'm gonna tell you.
yeah,
No, but I was just gonna share this quick story, as to what Katie is talking about as far as the algorithm. Um, so I reported a post to Instagram last December, and because I kept there was this page. You know how sometimes if you follow a page that does a certain kind of content, they'll collaborate with another content creator to boost their content. It's like, oh, follow this page if you want to follow me. So, or follow them, whatever. So one of the things that I like to look at on Instagram is nature stuff, like nature is metal,
yes,
scary nature. I like looking
yeah,
at stuff like that. So there was one of those channels that was posting all of this nature stuff, and all of a sudden like they started posting all of these girls like in these crazy outfits, like go follow this chick, her Instagram is this. And so after a while I got tired of seeing it, but the straw that broke the camel's back, it was like Christmas time, and this young lady it was this young girl, and she was jumping up and down with a Santa Claus hat on, and she had this like see-through negligee thing on, and you could clearly see her nipples.
yeah,
And so I was like, you know what, enough. And I reported the post to Instagram, and you have to go through the whole channel where they say, well, why are you reporting this? And I said nudity, this is promoting sexually explicit material. And so like a week later, they came back to me and said, we did a review of the post you did and found nothing wrong with it. And I was like, wow, you got to be
that's
kidding me.
crazy.
They said they found nothing. I took a screenshot of it and I put it on Instagram. I did a post about it and said they found nothing wrong with it. And it was like, we're not going to do anything about this post. And I was just like, man, Instagram is trash. It's just what they do. So
Yeah, they
even when you
sure
do
giving me
report
hell.
it, yeah,
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, is how many times have we been blocked, banned, and
Yeah,
censored, and
crazy.
exactly.
content warnings and stuff like that, just because we're like, you know what, maybe you should wait to take this shot. Let's just see what's happening or whatever. And then you know how I know I should follow someone is when I go
Is
to
when
hit
they tell you,
follow, and
yeah,
they're like, this person, is a repeat
you're like,
offender of blah blah blah.
follow.
And I'm like, definitely. Now I'm going and I'm liking all their stuff. But what really sucks is like you can't even share some of that stuff. Like Gian, if anytime I would share his stuff, like my story views would go from like 200 to 5. If I
Right.
share something from Blanchard, it's the same thing. I'm just like,
Yep.
Jesus, like they really, I mean, that's really what pushed me to Telegram and then now to Twitter, is because I'm just get sick of it. And I'm like, well, you know what? They don't deserve my time of being on these platforms. So I'm out here like engaging with other people, consuming different kinds of information, and I just want to be in a place where I can say what I want to say. I mean, I'm not saying anything hateful or harmful. I'm damn sure not nude on the internet. um
Hmm.
And I just find that really really ridiculous that we can't share the truth. I mean, getting censored because like you're talking about the Bible and all of that stuff. Like even now some of that content is being flagged. Like if you talk about Christ or you say God too many times or whatever, like they're just coming for you. And that's just like clearly shows you that it's part of this propaganda machine that they don't want us to be heard. And it's really sad. It's really really sad that that is such slow growth in a time where people really need to hear the message of what it's like to be a believer, what it's like to try to have a more holistic lifestyle, what it's like to farm and garden, and yeah, I mean just all of these wonderful things that are natural and normal. And it's just that's not what they want in the algorithm. If it's anything that's destructive, and that's the best way I can put it. It's like that's what's boosted through the algorithm. Everything from the song you choose. Like look at some of the trending music. I'm so tired of picking the same 5 songs for my reels because I want to be able to pick something else, but it's like it's just I don't know. It's just wild how they have it set up. You have to use what's terrible in order to be seen. I do like the girl that dances crazy as she's telling you
Oh, yeah.
a lot of truths. I think that that's funny. I think that that's really creative. I don't agree with all of her messaging, but I appreciate how she really got out there and did it. I always said like I won't dance on the internet, but if I did, I'm sure it would look very similar to that.
And you know what else I'm seeing? A Dreamlight brought this up where you had the folks like say you do a video, Katie, and then someone will do like a mirror with a side. It'd be like you talking, but the person will be sitting next to you agreeing with what you're saying. Instagram will promote that video. Like they won't promote you doing it, but they'll promote the person just sitting there listening to you talk. But it's just the weirdest. It's almost like
Hey, I've done that before, and that does work. I did that with Dreamwear and Bobby Oppie and things like that. Is because that's one of their features. They want you to remix the reel,
Okay.
but and I'm saying like sometimes you have to use those things to your advantage. But I do think that that's wild. Like Blanche, that's really what happened to you in the start. Is like you're posting stuff and nobody's seeing your content, but when other people are posting it, you're getting almost 1 million views from
Right.
people. And so it's just really weird. It's like once you have that ban on you, it's like almost impossible to get off. It's oppressing us in one way or another, that's for sure.
But it's actually real oppression. There's actually real oppression. Yeah, what they're doing.
If we don't have free speech, I mean, that's really going to limit our lives. It's really going to limit our lives. And it takes a lot to get online and speak the truth. I mean, you really become a target, not only from the platforms, but from other people. I mean, we see like nasty comments all the time and people trying to troll us. And not only that is they have like these troll armies. So something that they do on Twitter, which I know that they do here on Instagram too, is if you're putting out an opposing message and you have like a group of feminists, let's say they don't like this message, they send it to a group message and everybody in the group message basically downgrades your post by reporting it and things like that. And so they really work together. I mean, it's really sad that like we can't use those same tactics to work together to promote our content, but I think that just happens when everybody is like out for self, and you could see like a clear difference. Like Lance, I really want to say like thank you so much. Like I appreciate you like sharing our content. I definitely try to do the same, even though it kind of sometimes hurts our page more than anything. But I definitely post you on Twitter, on Telegram. I tell people about you in real world too. I'm just like, you gotta meet my friend Blanchard.
Yeah, don't post my stuff. Listen. If what I got is gonna hurt something, don't do it. Just don't do it. It ain't worth. Just don't do it. It ain't worth it.
But I definitely send it to people. I definitely tell people about you. I definitely will share it in the DMs too, because like I said, I appreciate your friendship through like this whole journey of just becoming a podcaster, the charity that we did before, and all of that. Like that really means a lot to me. And I think that you're a good example of how an influencer should be.
Oh, thank you.
I said it before and I say it again. Blanche is the man.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Y'all making me blush. I appreciate it.
People ask me to stop sending them your stuff, man, because they got tired of getting that work.
I appreciate it. I just, I love being an antagonist now. I love it. I want to push the envelope.
Yeah.
You do a great job, and cutting through the culture has been an exciting journey for you guys too.
Yeah,
It's good to see, like, getting into the flow of things. That's really some great content there, and again, just being really good examples of what it is to be a true content creator and create something of value. I see so many of the same people in the comments all of the time, and I'm always trying to encourage them, like, send us to 3 people that don't want to hear it right now. like
Mm-hmm.
like just do it, because it's going to resonate with someone, and either that or make them upset. It's okay to make people upset too with your content. You just have to, like, get them to think about it, and that's all we really can do is plant the seed. I personally don't want to be surrounded by yes men all of the time. I think
right.
it provides a lot of um great things for me when I can get in a situation where somebody that doesn't agree with me, and I'm forced to better articulate what my thoughts are, better able to provide facts to back it up, and that's really what I'm working on. I don't claim to be perfect at it or anything, but every time I'm challenged, once I get through it, it definitely helps to make me a better person. And I've just I feel like this has just, like, taught me so much. And then look, I got a new best friend. How much do you guys love jambalaya?
She's the
Awesome.
bomb.
Awesome. And
Well,
I was
Mm-hmm.
since
thinking you all, maybe we should do this again. I kind of like this, what we did
yes,
today.
please, this is
Yeah,
awesome.
for sure.
And I just got to give a shout out to all three of you actually, because Katie, for sure. I mean, I'm just going to put it out there. I actually reached out to people on Twitter to try to do something with them because I was never really interested in, like, being known or having, like, this fake social media fame. I just wanted my voice to be heard and find people that were a tribe. And people do kind of posture themselves as, Twitter celebs if they have a large following. They really don't want to deal with you if you got like 5 people, even though you might be actually talking about real stuff. And Katie just literally reached out to me. I went out and met her, and we've been cool ever since. And, like, I mean, literally, I told her, I said, I feel closer to you than I do my own sister, just because we're like-minded.
Mm-hmm.
And she's a
Yeah.
little younger than me, but she's so mature and
Yeah.
thoughtful and critically thinks. And the thing I love about her is I'm drawn to people who are bold and honest. And so when she hit me to you, Blanche, I was like, oh, this dude is like, where has he been? I've not seen this kind of content where he's just like straight up, then he's laughing, right? And so I was loving that. And then Kev, of course, I saw you in the space, and Katie told me about you. So I only made these connections with you guys, which is exciting to me because it's like, wow, there really are, I'm not Elijah, right? In the
Mm-hmm.
desert looking for people who think like me.
Yeah.
I'm not
It's
alone,
almost
Lord.
kind of like that.
Yeah.
It is, but it's really good. I mean, look, I'd rather have quality than quantity. So I'm glad to have made all you guys acquaintances. I hope we go on to do things with each other in the future and really try to pierce the culture for God's glory. So I really appreciate this.
I
And
remember
honestly, go
I
ahead.
was watching one of your lives, Blanche, and you were trying to pull up. You kept talking about, like, yeah, there's this clip from Jambalaya Talks that I want to pull up. I want to share it. And you were looking for the clip, and I was like, who's he talking about? And so, like, I'm the type of person that, like, I've learned when people who are like-minded, when they start talking about people that they, are into, then I go and look for them. So when he kept, I never did see the clip because I guess you couldn't find it and you moved on to something else. But I looked you up on Instagram, Jambalaya, and I started following you right away. And I was like, all right, well, Blanche, she had something good to say. So, Blanche was rocking with it, and I need to check her stuff out. And so that led me to to Katie after Blanche gave Louisiana Sister Squad a shout out on his page, and then I reached out to her and was like, "Hey, let's collab." And she said, "Great, come on the podcast." And I was like, "Okay." And so it just
Which
kind
was
of went from
awesome, by
there.
the way.
Yeah. So thank you. We did this whole thing, and it's just like you said. That keyword jambalaya is you looking for a tribe of people that you can connect with and say we can bounce stuff off each other. And here's the thing, like because of the maturity levels that you guys are at, I'm gonna be looking to you guys for accountability as well, as far as hey man, you was off key posting that, or you was off key when you said that, so on and so forth. And I'm like, all right, cool. These are the people that got my best interest at heart. And, I know they have sound counsel and they speaking from a place of wisdom. So I can take that. So I appreciate all you guys as well. And just thank you
Y'all
for letting
got
me
me
hang
over
out.
here crying. I'm just kidding.
But
And
I'm
you know
sorry, I didn't
what?
mean to cut you off, Blanche.
People
Go ahead. What was
see.
you gonna say?
No, I was gonna say that people listen. People see the content. Trust me, they see it, and it's just a trick of the enemy to make us just give up. People see the stuff. Trust me. They may not show people seeing it, but people see it. Now it may be somebody in Nepal somewhere, but people
Mm-hmm.
see it, and it's reaching somebody, and
Yeah.
what we're doing is not going to go in vain. I imagine in the future where it's like 1984 and people don't have access to any kind of information. People will be digging through all kind of internet archives and they'll be finding people like us. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like we'll be hope for the future, honestly.
Yeah.
If you think about it, we're like the underground stuff you gotta, watch in cave.
Railroad.
Huh?
I was
I
gonna
thought you were gonna
say
say the Underground Railroad.
No,
I said Blanche.
no.
We're gonna be
Well,
like the
well,
speakeasies.
honestly, technically, we will be kind of like the underground smart city. Where what do they
Mm-hmm.
call it?
Yeah. The people that lived
Underground smart
underneath the
rail.
city in Demolition Man.
Yeah, like the
Yeah.
underground smart rail. Yeah, we something like that.
I only thought about the Ninja Turtles when you said underground, if I'm just being
Okay.
honest. Besides the Underground Railroad, I was like, Ninja Turtles. That's
Right.
all right. I missed that my sister couldn't be on here with us and have more people included in the conversation. That was a bummer that Elon screwed up all of Twitter. I'm just gonna say it. I have been looking forward to like going live on YouTube. I didn't feel like it was gonna be like this, but it is what it is. I guess it's better to just jump in and take advantage of the fact that we had all planned on being here. So shout out to my sister. She was not on the podcast about the feminist movement because she's busy doing some other things. But she's been supportive and inquisitive, and just as much as the podcast. So I don't want anybody to think that like she's not on the show because she hasn't been on for like 4 episodes. We are also working on something that's very good as our like kind of season finale, and so I wanted to just touch on that really quick. And you guys know that she's going to be so excited about this. We're talking about holistic health for pets. And so we got a professional dog groomer who is like top tier of her education. She owns a mobile grooming business, and she is looking to start a business furthering education for other groomers. So how to take care of pets and all of that, because our pets are like our little, children. Of course, we shouldn't. We should still actually be having children, but our pets do deserve to be treated well also, right? And holistic pet health and stuff like that, because I think what's been exposed to me as well is that we have these animals that we do love so much and we take care of them. However, we have to start seeing like the vets as part of like the pharmaceutical industry. So how they push like this really crappy kibble on our cats and dogs, the vaccines that they're always trying to inject to the pets and things like that. If we're living a well life, we want our pets to be happy too. Don't laugh at me, Blanche.
No, I'm not, Katie. I'm not laughing. But somebody said they thought that you and sister were a lesbian couple because of that
Who?
picture.
Oh, me and my sister?
Yeah, because the way
Yes.
the picture is, it kind of looks like one of those, But
Yes, like a
somebody
prom
just
photo. Well, that's something
Set the
to
record
consider.
straight.
I had never heard that before. So, to all the people that think that, no, it's definitely my sister. If you listen to our podcast and hear how similar we sound, and she does always refer to me as my sister, even when we're like podcasting right then and there. She very seldomly just says Katie. She says, and my sister says blah 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 blah. So maybe that's the disconnect there. But I think it's cute and it's special. I don't get to be, who else is gonna call me that? So no, definitely not a lesbian, definitely happily
they're
married.
just going by they're just going by the picture though. It's not they're looking at the picture. That's all. I got the picture up on my screen, so they just like
Oh, okay,
yeah,
okay.
we just
Yeah.
thought it was yeah.
So
You can
no, for
tell the
sure.
culture has changed, Katie. 15, 20
Right.
years ago, they just would have
Well,
thought you were besties.
hey,
That's how
listen.
Right,
weird things are.
right,
Mm-hmm.
right.
Listen, whatever it is you think, that's okay. So just so long as you check out our podcast, that's all I really care about. Because we do put a lot of time into it, and so yeah, just going back to like the holistic pets, and this is going the holistic doctor that we have coming on, the holistic veterinarian. She's been one for 35 years, and so come with your pet questions because she's going to do a live with us as well, and give us some information, and that's going to include other things like chickens and whatnot. I'm pretty sure.
I was
Um,
just gonna ask that because I'm like, if she doesn't have anything about my chickens, I can't listen to her. I need
I
chicken
mean,
help.
she does. You're gonna love
We
this
gotta
woman.
get
She's
some
just
chickens, huh?
very well versed. So, would you say, Blanche?
I gotta get some chickens. Everybody's getting chickens.
Mm-hmm.
Yep,
I live in a
just
condo, so if I have some chickens running around, I'm getting kicked
you
out.
getting put
So
out.
yeah.
When you're ready, Blanche, just let me know. I can tell you all the stuff not to do.
Okay. Chickens, huh? Let me think. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. They
Yeah,
say get
Yeah,
them for
we
the eggs. That's
everybody
why.
should get chickens. We were thinking about it, but we have some other projects going on. But we will get chickens in the very near future. In the meantime, Ebby and I are trading eggs and tomatoes. So
Yes,
there's
and
that.
sunflowers.
Yes.
I appreciate y'all letting me hang out tonight.
Me too. This was really awesome. I
This was
enjoyed this. I think
awesome.
I like this better than being on Twitter.
This is awesome.
Hmm.
You
Yep.
guys have any
So
other closing statements about gushing about how much we all love each other?
I think we should do this maybe I don't know, maybe once a month. I don't know, once a quarter. I don't know. I enjoy
I'm
it.
down.
yeah, I
Yeah, I
did
enjoyed
too.
this. I'm
We
down
can reconvene on another topic. You know,
Yeah.
for
Yeah,
sure.
definitely. And
I'm
then
definitely down to
Blanche,
do it.
not to put you out, Kevin. I know you guys work together already, but Blanche, I definitely think you should have Jambalaya on and just be you two for a little bit. I think that would be a very
Hmm.
interesting conversation when you pick a topic. She knows
Okay.
so much about history, guys. Be sure to check out her page. She's totally awesome. I definitely feel blessed to be able to get such an amazing friend so fast, and we're gonna be hanging out tomorrow actually.
Yes,
Cool.
can't
Oh,
wait
so
to
y'all
see
became
you.
friends for real.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
oh
what's
yeah. It's
up.
not no Twitter friendship. It's the real deal. Yeah, and Blanche, I would love to do something with you on scriptural stuff.
Okay.
Cause I kind of get hit up on Twitter Spaces to do topics, and there's a lot of I've heard you talk very intently and deeply about scripture. So I would love for you like pick a topic and maybe we can kind of go head to head. And I don't care if it's just you and I or if it's other people. I
Okay.
just want to have like more conversation about the Bible.
Okay.
Don't forget to plug the Bible study, Abby.
Oh yeah, Friday, every Friday. And you gotta help me with the time, Tammy, because my brain is 8:30. What EST?
No, 8:30
Okay,
Central
see,
Standard
there we go. All right, 8:30 Central Standard every Friday. Louisiana and I do a Bible study, and
on Twitter Spaces.
pass on Thursdays.
On Twitter?
Yeah,
I
on
thought it was
Twitter
Friday
Space.
morning.
What? Why did you say Thursday?
I thought I said Friday.
You did say Friday, and then you came back saying Thursday.
Oh, okay. I thought you were telling me to say Thursday. I'm like, wait, it's Friday. See, this is what happens
So
when you
that's
get two women
9:30 for
trying to do
us.
stuff.
Yeah,
All right, yeah.
9:30. So let me try again. Ready?
Okay.
I'll start on my podcasting voice. We have a Bible study. We have a Bible study every Friday morning on Twitter Space. It's at 9:30 Eastern Standard Time, 8:30 Central Standard Time. And if you're on the West Coast, just figure it out. See you on Twitter Space. It is recorded, so you can always catch the replay for that. It lives on our timeline. So if you come on and you can't catch it live or you can't stay on, all you have to do is retweet it and it'll live on your page forever. We drop additional comments and scripture notes in the bubble there, and you're always welcome to suggest something that you want us to talk about. Currently we're just kind of going from one topic to another, but Ebby is in charge of the Bible study. I'm just there to encourage her to do it and listen and learn, to be honest with you. So it actually is
Yeah.
hosted on Jambalaya Talks page.
Yeah, all I do is I just pick a topic of scripture that I find isn't really discussed in Christianity, and it's kind of like hard, uncomfortable topics. So, like, what does Jesus mean when he says, I did not come to bring peace? And so I'm just trying to like maybe get Christians to focus on the true biblical caricature of Christ and not this like
they just want to keep him in swaddling cloth in the manger. He can't come out and be a king. So so I just want to I want to show them the grown man Jesus, not the baby Jesus. So it gets pretty interesting, and it's really good. And we have prayer, and I usually ask a man to close it out in prayer because I tell them, look, I'm not a preacher. Women should not be preachers. I know that probably makes some women mad, but women can help teach the word. And
How long do
so
y'all
yeah,
go for?
like an hour, 8:30 to 9:30. If it goes a little longer, people can leave. They usually have to work or whatever, but it's really nice. It's a really nice space. So you guys, if you get a chance, please jump in there and give your two.
For
No, you
sure.
don't listen. Y'all look like lesbians. It's just the picture.
Why is Blair still on it? So
Because
funny.
Morgan said you're like a lesbian. No, you don't look like a lesbian. It's just they were looking at the picture like already they couldn't figure it out. That's all. It was
To
it's
the
just
pure, everything is pure, and to the ratchet, everything is
right, right,
ratchet.
right.
Oh my God, people.
Oh
Blanche,
man.
thank you so much for having
Yeah.
us in this space where we were able to actually continue this. I was concerned it wasn't going to happen. And Katie, thank you for making it happen, Captain.
Yeah, no
Yep.
problem. Thanks again, guys. I appreciate you. Be
Appreciate
sure to
y'all.
check out the podcast. Follow Blanche. I saw a message that Blanche, you re-upped your merch. You have a new merch store, or you just still what
I
you
mean,
got?
What?
it's the same one. It's the same story.
All right. Well, we're gonna have to work on that because I don't need what is that? A soccer shirt? Don't need that, and I don't need one that says "I'm not black, I'm free." I'm sure that people are
Oh, I
very
need that
well
shirt.
aware.
I'm
You
wearing
And
know
that. I'm
what?
gonna
I
wear
was thinking about doing the white version though.
yes, please do.
it.
I will definitely wear that.
Katie, you're not white. My God, I can tell
Exactly.
you've been
The shirt will
propagandized.
say that.
Your
The shirt
light
will say
your
that.
light skin privilege. Come on, I'm
Black adjacent.
Black
black.
adjacent.
Thank you,
Yeah.
lightly melanated folks. Stop it.
The focus is on the word free.
Yeah,
Free,
I do.
not
I do
free.
like that.
I'm
I'm
not
getting that
yeah,
shirt.
I'm not subscribed to that. And then we've recently added more merch to our store too. Have some holistic sweatshirts, and then now we have truther. We do have crop tops for those that should be wearing crop tops or when you're working
Yeah,
out or
modest.
whatever. But they're really cute, and we even have a really subtle Trump crop top and t-shirt available. It's super cute. It's just a little outline of Trump, and it says 2024 on it. It's like a cartoon outline of just like his hair. I don't know. I get creative. It sells. It sells.
If
And
you're
you can
fighting
switch over to
diabetes, don't get that crop top. I'm just
But yeah, you guys don't forget to be active in your own community, whether it's helping the children or fighting for election integrity. That's something that's really important to our country right now. Don't just sit back and wait for them to do something. We saw they stole the 2020 election, and we have to stop that from happening again. So go volunteer to either register people to vote or be a poll watcher. And if you're one of those people that says my vote doesn't matter, you can't do anything about it, well, then just be that person, I guess.
Are
Hopefully
you
I've
talking
encouraged.
about me, Katie? On the
Hopefully I've
okay.
encouraged somebody to change, and if you're looking for a place to get active, just reach out to me and I will point you to some great people. I want to give a shout out to Scott Pressler. He's available on Twitter. I think he's on all social media platforms, but he actually developed his own app, and he is working tirelessly to try to register people to vote, and just he made his what he's doing really able to be duplicated for other people that really care about free and fair elections. Because if we don't have that, we don't have a country. The
It's
end.
facts.
I agree. So Katie, the Twitter page is the same as Louisiana Sister Squad
Yeah, you should be able to type in Louisiana Sister Squad. I know the handle is at Louisiana Squad.
at Louisiana Squad. Okay, that's what I was.
Yeah. And then the podcast is Louisiana Sister Squad on Spotify. And then there's actually like another platform that I'm actually might be getting on. So stay tuned for that announcement. That's an independent platform. That's pretty interesting. I really like their work. So I won't say too much about it, but hopefully for season 3, will be available in more places. I was never able to get onto Apple Podcasts like iTunes. I don't know why they hate me so much, but I was just never able
Um,
to get on.
do you go through Anchor?
Yeah, so Anchor is no longer Anchor
They
now. It's
changed the name.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's called
Spotify for
Spotify for
podcasters.
podcasters.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
they don't
they
put you on
changed the
all of the
name.
digital site. They don't put you on the They used to do it
No.
automatically.
They
Yes.
do.
Well, okay, so you say they do, but you probably have an iPhone or some kind of iDevice. I don't. So I had to create and I created an iTunes account. I gave my credit card information because you have to have that even to activate the iTunes account. I did all of that and was never able to get on Apple. Now maybe they distribute it and I just don't know. If you guys have Apple, you can go and search and see if we're there, but I've never promoted it because as far as I knew, it didn't go through.
I'm
But
looking it up right now.
okay, cool. And then we're also looking to get on Rumble for season 3 and start doing more video podcasting. We've changed a lot of the things that we were doing, all for the better. You know, I mean, I think if you've been somebody that's listened to our podcast over time, I definitely feel like there's been a lot of progression and the feedback kind of points to that too. I didn't start out doing this saying like, oh, it's the Katie and Tammy show. It's really never about us. It's about just hosting people to give really great information. We don't have any episodes on there where it's just us giving our opinion. My sister has her own episode, but that's because it was about breast implant illness. So that's what I'm looking for. So if you have something important that you would like to share, reach out to me and we can talk about it. Like I said, we try to stay in the truther realm of holistic health and alternative lifestyles. And I like for things to be able to be tied back to those things. And that includes faith talk. So
Yeah, you're not on here. Now there are some episodes of y'all on other shows on here. If you all have been on some other shows, there's an episode on here with y'all on iTunes. But
who's that by Weber's Way?
who is this? He said, yep, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, he's great too. He's a real big like freedom fighter and he's funny. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've done interviews on other shows. My sister has done a couple and I've done a couple more than she has, just because I can kind of, it's easier to squeeze it in sometimes just with me instead of working with 3 and 5 different schedules. So like I said, I'm sad that she wasn't able to join us tonight, but she was definitely here in spirit. And I really feel bad because I think that she was prepared to come on, but she's always welcome to join us in Twitter space and do that conversation. I just know that she loves talking to Blanche so much too. So she's probably like really bummed out. So I hope she knows that I'm genuinely sorry she couldn't come on. But anyways, okay. Well, thanks again, guys. I appreciate you all and y'all have a wonderful night. I'll see you
All
soon.
right, y'all. Thank y'all so much.
Night, everybody. Thank
Good
you.
night. We love y'all.
Thank you guys. I appreciate